All right, gang. So trying to get back into this being more of a series. Last year got bumped by storms, and so I'm not going to try to let that happen again. So we'll do it again, either again in a year or even in 6 months from now. But what I wanted to first introduce is we're going to have a series of speakers. We're going to have speakers that are talking about general concept of being where you can get help to start your own practice, and that would be Todd here with Jedco. We're also going to talk about financing, accounting, how to run a business from the financial standpoint with Tom and Spring. They're from Accounting Services Unlimited, and also we have Conrad Meyer, who's with Shahardy Sherman Williams, is an attorney certified in healthcare law. So that's what we're going to do tonight. My backstory is that after about 2.5 years out of residency in family medicine, I decided got irritated with administration where I work, and so I went solo. So I've been in solo practice, been this typical insurance-based model until about 10 years ago, about 9 years ago. Then I switched to direct primary care. But this talk isn't specifically about direct primary care. I mean, it will gravitate in that direction, I will say, but it really is more about the motivation and the desire to start your own practice. When you are an employed physician, you are limited to what you can do, especially if you're a full-scope family medicine physician who removes skin cancers, injects shoulders, who treats bipolar disorder, all that kind of stuff. If you're in one of the big box models, a lot of times you get handcuffed with whether or not you can do quite a bit of these things. Being in your own practice allows you to craft however you want to craft your practice. So if you think things aren't going right, you don't have to check with administration. You can go ahead and make that decision right there on the fly. Additionally, an underrated part of being in solo practice or small group, maybe 2 or 3 docs, if you're owning your own business, you just don't recognize it yet, but a whole host of opportunities and doors open up for you. Not windows to jump out of, but doors. And these are things that you would never expect. It can be very lucrative commercially or very satisfying from a moral, ethical, and emotional standpoint. So there are so many benefits to being a solo practice. Now, of course, we hear, well, right now, at least in primary care, if you go to Louisiana, 25% of us are in solo or in private practice, and the other 75% are employed. That doesn't mean you can't do solo practice. The employers, one of my other talks is how the sausage is made in medicine. Hospitals typically are nonprofits, means they pay no taxes whatsoever. So they can buy tons of acreage and not pay a penny of taxes on that. Hi there. Welcome. Sign in, please, there. Anyway, they can take up tons of acreage, all taxes. They get cheap drugs to benefit people who can't afford drugs, but they just wash them in the laundry, and then they charge high tickets for them. Also, if a patient sees somebody who is a primary care doctor at one of the big boxes, as opposed to one of y'all who are like just on the street or on shingle, Medicare and others will pay the primary care physician who is employed more than they'll pay the independent doctor. So they call it because the employed physician gets paid because there's a facility, so there's a facility fee. But literally, the same visit for a certain patient, whether it's an independent doctor on the street or whether it's an employed physician, there is more money going towards that exact same sprained ankle visit for the employed physician. So the hospital systems pay no taxes, so their bank accounts go way high. As far as a community service, they're supposed to go easy on the citizens who can't afford. Trust me, hospitals go hard on their citizens that cannot afford their payments. I can give you many examples. And also, they get more money per visit than one of us on the street does. So they take that extra cash And they offer lucrative, relatively lucrative contracts in private physicians and physicians' practices. Now they're under your control. So what you're getting is that your practice is now based on who your boss is, and your boss is your employer. My last thing I'm going to say before I turn this over is that as primary care physicians, we are in the ideal position to run our own and start our own small business. That maybe none of the medical professions can say that with 100% across the board. We can say that. People looking for a good physician who has eyes and ears, not so much a mouth, but they're looking for somebody who's going to actually see them and take care of them. That's a precious commodity. And as long as we family medicine physicians and primary care physicians continue to demean ourselves or to think that we're inferior, the more that backs us into the Stockholm syndrome, where we're just saying, please employer, give me something. Yes, I know I get paid the first year, but then after that, I get on a productivity contract. And there's this weird RVU calculation that I have no access to, that if I actually go to the accounting department and say, could you show me all your numbers, please, they'll just leave. Last year, Conrad's going to speak to this in much more authoritative detail, is that the non-compete clauses for us, for any of us who might be employed, are way favorable than they were 14 months ago. So there's a lot of opportunity. Anyway, I want to, as far as the order of business today, I do have a schedule. Everybody should have a blue folder. If you don't, I would encourage you to get a blue folder in the back. If you could pass it along. There's the first page, the folder has an order of the program. And then there's the second page is really sort of a bit of a diatribe about me about why I go into private practice. And then the pages that follow that are a step-by-step guide on how to start a business and how to start a practice. It's a 6-page guide, but it's big type. Anyway, so we're gonna move on. Those are for y'all to keep, obviously. Anyway, so what I first want to do is I want to introduce Tom, and Tom is with Accounting Services Unlimited. He's also here with Spring from ASU, and they have distributed some cups around. Big problem with us when we come out of college, then medical school, then residency, have our blinders on. We don't learn anything about business. We probably don't even feel we can run a snowball stand. Tom is going to, now I did it the way where I just learned as I went, and I asked a lot of people, and I kind of worked my way, and I made up a lot of stuff, maybe, but it worked for a while. But some people, and I would encourage that you might want to get some financial accounting guidance if you do this. So I'm going to turn this over to Tom, if you don't mind, and let's go ahead and talk about what these folks can do who want to start a small practice.
All right, first things first, I want to know who you are. So I'm going to go around the room real quick. I'm Thomas Fontes, Accounting Services Unlimited. It says Flores on the thing. You can thank Dr. Call for that. But I want to go around the room real fast just to know, what's your name?
Harun Iqbal. I'm a physician. I work in hospital medicine majority.
Okay.
I'm Dr. Sonia Sullivan. I'm a partner in Community Health.
Dr. Francois, I have a DPC and I do contract.
What does DPC mean?
Direct primary care.
Okay, sorry. I always ask acronyms.
Dr. Balanli Kaede, family medicine resident.
Christy Paul, family medicine resident.
Time with family medicine, practicing caterer.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Spring with Accounting Services Unlimited.
Conrad Meyer, I'm the healthcare attorney.
Oh shit, we don't know to get your
I'm Dr. Maharajan. I'm currently working in Lockport, Coastal Columbia. I moved to the area and I'm moving around.
Okay.
Todd Ferrero with Jenko.
Nobody cares about that.
That's right.
So, all you physicians, some of you have been doing this for a while. I'm going to be a little bit basic at the beginning, and then I'm going to get into some real dirty stuff. And what does that mean? That means for those of you that are just getting started in residence, One of the biggest mistakes I see when physicians first go out on their own is they go out and they get patients and they start working and they start getting Medicaid, they start getting Medicare, and they start getting paid. And so they get paid the first 2 years, they're thrilled, they're paying down their student debt, they're happy as clams, they maybe pick up an employee or two even though they don't know how to handle them, things like that. They don't know though whether they should be an LLC or an S corporation or a C corp. They don't know what's tax deductible, what's not tax deductible. How does this start to work? So I wrote down some basic things as far as the introductions are, and I promise you that I'm not going to put a PowerPoint up and read it to you. That's my promise for you for this little show. But we are going to talk about, for example, who here has an LLC already? Okay, great. So why did you get an LLC?
In independent work, so I have an S corp.
Okay.
Basically for that reason, for legal liability purposes, for legal protection. Sorry.
Legal protection. Okay. Well, one of the first things that doctors get hit with when they first start their practices is something called self-employment tax. You're also being protected from that. I'm glad you got the legal part done, so it's a lawyer. But do you know that if you don't have yourself on a regular payroll for that S corp, that you are still subject to self-employment tax because the IRS will disregard it. Now, what's the difference between an LLC and an S corp when it comes to taxes? Here's my trusty little board. All right, and feel free to interrupt me at any point. I am easy to talk to. We're gonna do a really simple exercise. This is what it looks like when you have an S corp, when you have an LLC. An LLC is not recognized by the IRS unless it is a partnership tax return. What does that mean? That means the IRS doesn't care. It goes on your personal tax return. That's it. And with the LLC, you're still subject to self-employment tax. Now, self-employment tax, what is it? When you work for somebody else, they take 7.65% of your paycheck, right? For Social Security and Medicare. As an employer, they have to match it, right? Okay, that's called the match. Together, 15.3% self-employment tax. When you're self-employed, you get to pay both. Isn't that great? No, it sucks. So let's say you have a practice that your gross net income is $100,000. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. That won't even pay my student loans. Relax. It's just an exercise. So 15.3% of $100,000 gross net is an easy number to deal with. It's $15,300. Can you see with my crappy writing? Oh, you guys are doctors here. I was not writing. All right, so $15,300. Now, for the sake of this exercise, this particular practice, we're going to say that you have about $30,000 in expenses. Expenses being insurances, cell phones, Wi-Fi, the lease of your vehicle, that if you live close to your practice, lease your vehicle, because it's 100% write-off. If you live far, buy the vehicle, we'll write off the miles. So for those of us in Gulfport, keep the miles. Anyway, so you have these expenses. Let's say that's a negative number. Now let's say you have payroll because you have a person that helps you and a person that answers the phone. And just for the sake of this exercise, we're going to say that you have payroll, right? Maybe you 1099 them because they come in every once in a while. Maybe they're on W-2 payroll, which is a whole different ballgame. All right? Now, so that gives us a negative $75,000 in expenses. The expenses in payroll. Gives us a $25,000 profit. Right? You know what we haven't talked about? Income taxes. You still owe income taxes on the profits of your practice. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you're in a 20% tax bracket because you've got a couple of kids and your husband or wife doesn't work or whatever. Right? So 20% of $25,000 is $5,000. Income tax, right? Income tax. plus $15,300, right, from self-employment tax. All right, is everybody still with me? I've yet to see anybody not off, not cheating. So that gives you $20,300 total tax. Pretty basic stuff, right? So this is what you pay when you're self-employed, because it's self-employment tax. That's terrible, don't you think? Right? All right, so why do we become an S corporation? I should have had like a music or something when I did that. So we're going to show you the exact same amount of money, exact same expenses, and the big difference of why you become an S corporation. And I can't tell you how many dentists, chiropractors, general practitioners come to me every year, and after the first year, they do what you saw on the backside for the LLC, where they show up and all of a sudden they have a $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 tax bill, and they don't know why. And it was as simple as what we're going to do with the S corp. So we have the same $100,000, right? Now, how do you turn an LLC into an S corporation? Good news, you don't have to do anything except fill out what's called a 2553. 2553 makes your LLC with its federal tax ID number an S corporation. The only thing you're doing is asking the IRS to tax you as an S corp. Now, the other thing you have to do is the owner has to be on what? What does the owner have to be when you're an S corp?
Primary member.
Payroll, bingo. Yeah, you have to be on payroll. So yeah, mandatory to be on payroll or it'll be disregarded. So we have the same $100,000. Now, here's the other thing that's cool about an S corp. It doesn't pay taxes. How many times have you guys heard that the government's fighting that corporations don't pay taxes? Well, here's what happens for the good guys. The corporation doesn't pay taxes, but let's say for the sake of this exercise that we pay the physician a symbolic payroll. I call it symbolic because this doesn't mean that you can't take all the money you want out of your corporation and spend it on, fast cars and women, or men, fast cars and women and men. It means that you just have to take this symbolic payroll. And I say it's like $2,000 a month times 12 months equals $24,000, right? Except, I don't really care if you take the paycheck. I want you to pay the payroll taxes monthly on your paycheck. Because now that you have an S corporation, this corporation stands alone. It has its own tax return, it's its own entity. It's its own, it's all by itself. So you're an employee of the corporation. Now you pay yourself, take $500 out of your paycheck every month. Times 12 equals $6,000. And this is just payroll taxes. Now you guys remember they decided what the expenses were? Okay, so we had $30,000 in expenses. We had $45,000 in payroll. We had the negative $75,000, which left us with the $25,000 profit. Everybody remember that? It's been so long ago. Except you have another employee here that you didn't have on the other side, right? Who's the employee? You. You're the employee. So you now have another $24,000. So that gives us a $1,000 profit, which we still owe what percentage tax? 20%. 20% of $1,000. I know you guys aren't accountants, but come on. It's $200, right? So it's $200 in income tax. Plus, you paid $6,000 throughout the year. So it's a total of $6,200 total tax. You guys are lucky. You guys aren't coming to me your second or third year, most of you, after you graduate, after you go on your own, and you get the first tax bill, and then you show up, and I have to do all this for you, and you're mad because you spent $50,000 in taxes you didn't need to. So, this is, which one would you rather pay? 20,000? Or the 6,200? and you're on payroll getting the W-2. Questions? Oh, come on, I'm not that good. All right, good, all right. No questions.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, shoot.
The S Corp is still a LLC, but you have to file a separate form to get it classified as an S Corp under an LLC.
Right, you keep the LLC is only with the Secretary of State with the state of Louisiana. Nobody cares. In fact, the IRS doesn't even recognize it. They make you put it on your personal tax return as what's called the Schedule C. As most sole proprietors or small businesses or single member LLCs all go on your personal tax return. It's not recognized. The minute you send in this form, the 2553, which is really 2 pages, 2 signatures, you're being asked to be taxed as an S Corp. You don't have to change the name. You don't have to change the federal tax ID number. If you get an occupational license, you don't have to change that. And it's only a designation with the IRS, which is really good. That makes it really simple. And as long as you keep up with the payroll. Now, I chose here a symbolic payroll of around 25% of the gross net income. It doesn't have to be that number. The maximum you should pay yourself as an S corporation is $125,000 a year. Why? That's where Social Security maxes out. That's where Social Security and Medicare max out. So there's no point in paying yourself more. From there, you can either, and I'm a little more underhanded because I'm a big fan of when you use for your business, you should have credit cards. Those credit cards have points. Those points aren't taxable by any stretch of the imagination. And you use those points for personal stuff. Do not use those points or cash back to put money back into the practice. That is for you personally. I try to take my wife to Europe every year. I call it staying married. If you guys were married to me, you'd understand. Yeah, so, right? No, go ahead.
Tom, what are you calling distributions on this?
Well, that's why I say I'm a little more underhanded. Before we start with distributions, I want to make sure that the physicians are used to using that company credit card for almost everything they do. Almost everything they do. If I see, for example, if you're working with an aggressive firm, we're aggressive, we're not conservative. We look for every nook and cranny to save you money on taxes. So I try to get you to use, if you take an Uber ride, I'm going to try to write it off. If you stay in a hotel, I'm going to try to write it off. If you fly on a plane, I'm going to try to write it off. If you go to a restaurant, I'm going to try to write it off. If you go to strip clubs, I'll try the first couple ones, and then if it becomes habitual, you're on your own. But things like that, I mean, clothing, sometimes. Because of course, you're in your own practice, you're not necessarily wearing a uniform. You guys there's no gun to your head that you have to wear scrubs every day, all day. Plus, you go to conventions, you go to trainings, you guys do a lot of things outside of the clinic that we're gonna try to write off. So before we get to the point to where, finally, after all those expenses and the full payroll and everything else, you still have money left over? Okay, fine, then we take a distribution and all you do is pay, and we call them draws, but you only pay income taxes on the draws, right? But even before we get to draws, I wanna see a stellar retirement plan. In your cases, a SEP is probably a good idea, and I'm not a financial advisor, so don't start asking questions about retirement. But you know, if your clinic is doing well, you want a 401k for you, where you can max it out, and for your employees. This is going to be the smartest thing that's going to fly out of my mouth. The better you pay them, and the better the 401k, the longer you keep the employees. And training a new employee is way more expensive than spending 6 or 8% on a match for a 401k. You know, offering them health insurance or a membership with somebody like Dr. Carl is way cheaper than retraining somebody. If you think that, you know, somebody comes to you for a raise for a couple dollars more, and you're like, I'll just find somebody else, those are the dumbest things that are gonna fly out of your mouth. Because getting those people to get to know you, the things that you need, I guess if I use a MASH reference, the wrong generation, so forget it. Like Rayard and MASH, you know, when they ask for something that he already had it in his hand, ready for you. That's kind of what you're looking for. What other questions do you have about this? Because I'm going to move on.
If you didn't do a LLC, but you did a corporation, is that S corp, flow that you went through identical?
Yep. It's strange. Usually when you first start out, you open up the LLC. First thing you do, the lawyers will always tell you the same thing. You know, it's for the S corp, I already bored time. I can't believe it. Usually it takes a little more time. Usually you get the LLC to see if it takes off, right? Because the other thing is, usually $100,000 is right around the sweet spot, between 80 and 100 grand a year, gross net. That's the sweet spot. Anything above that, I deal with people that start a lawnmower, or cutting grass. I tell them, get an LLC. When you start growing, do the S corp. But very rarely do I tell them go straight for the S. Now, excuse me. When you grow to the point to where your practice has multiple employees and you become more and more efficient, and maybe you have other doctors working for you, then we can talk about a C corp, right, or an Inc. And those corporations are the ones that we use for heavy duty retirement. That means your student loans are paid off. That means your building is paid off, and now you're gonna get hit heavy with taxes. You're gonna fall into that tax bracket, probably between above 450, 500,000 a year in profits. That's when you start talking about the Inc. That's when you can start putting away larger chunks of money towards retirement, tax deferred, or things like that. But I think this is a good start to where you begin. Now, even though you're looking at this and you're thinking, wow, this sounds like it's a million, this is something that's happening right now, it's gonna happen right now to you. Certain things that you have to consider when you first start out, right? And one of the things, the reasons Todd's here is, you gotta talk about the beginning. When you first go out, I want to account for the bottle of water that you bought when you went to go look for a location or locations. I want to write off that bottle of water. All right, but when you think about that location, you have to think about equipment. You have to think about furniture. You have to think about how many rooms you're going to have to see patients. Are you going to have other doctors that are going to be in there with you seeing patients? What is that cost going to be, right? And how does that become expenses? You can't just buy a pile of drywall and put up walls and say, I'm just going to write it off. You have things to take into consideration like depreciation. Writing off. Does everybody know what depreciation means? Cool. Exciting stuff. I'll get it real simple. Depreciation means, let's say that build out of your office cost you $100,000. Depreciation means you get to take 5 or 20% of that every year over 5 years, as an example. So you don't get to take $100,000 off, you get to take $20,000 off every year. So if you brought in $100,000, you lower $20,000, so now your income is only $80,000. That's how you write things off. Any questions about write-offs? Go ahead.
I have a question.
Shoot.
Bringing it back to, Tal, I'm gonna bring it up in a little bit. But so as a person starting out in practice, just exploring what they're gonna do. Obviously, I'm gonna tell them they ought to get in touch with the healthcare attorney, just to navigate that landscape. Somebody who's gonna be starting their office, let's say, in August of next year. So in other words, another year left of the residency or something like that. What lead time, if they want to engage in accounting services, what lead time would you request, ideally? If they want to start in August.
If they want to start August 1st, I would say about 2.5, 3 months before, because there's certain things that you want to have in place. One, for example, you want to measure out, you're going to take credit cards. Everybody under the sun is going to offer to do your merchant services. All the banks, you're going to have your friends, there's going to be people that are walking off the street that are going to offer you merchant services. You want to make sure to pay attention that you have the best pricing you can get, because once you start practicing, you're going to forget about all these little things. Insurances, liability insurance, all the other insurances that come with it. You want to take time to quote around, shop around, and make sure you get all those things in place. When you come to somebody like Accounting Services Unlimited, we can refer you to people that we already know that have, that have best practices, that have decent pricing, that the service is there. Because the other thing is, you have to get used to a lot of these agents, a lot of people you're going to deal with are going to be really excited that you're going into practice, and then you're never going to see them again. In a year, they may not even work there anymore. So you want to try to make sure that you don't make all those mistakes at the beginning. What was one last thing?
I want to introduce right now Officer Todd. Tell us with, well, you tell him. You tell that better than I can.
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of you guys. And with you guys being physicians, I kind of always start off with a little joke because I'm Gen X and that's what I do. So you guys may have seen me walking with a slight limp. You got a lot of y'all would probably love to have me as one of your patients. I have a mild case of cerebral palsy, so yay for that. Anyway, I'm with JEDCO, and JEDCO is the Jefferson Parish Economic Development Commission. All right, so what we do is we work with businesses in Jefferson Parish to help them thrive and to succeed. My role, I work specifically with businesses in Kenner and in Gretna, and now I've actually been expanded to work with businesses in all of Jefferson Parish. Okay, so a lot of people know the name JEDCO, they know what we do, they kind of know some of the products and services that we offer, but a lot of times I get, what the hell is JEDCO and what the hell do y'all really do? And that's why I'm here today. It's great that Thomas came up here and gave everybody a math lesson, right? And some numbers, and gave you some solid numbers to look at. But I'm here to tell you, this is all fine and dandy, but if you don't have any of these numbers in your pocket, any of this green in your pocket, what are you gonna do, right? And that's where JEDCO comes in. So I did give everybody this sheet, and so I'm just gonna take a few minutes and then I'll just open it up for any questions that you guys may have. But the main thing that I wanna go over is what we call the JEDCO services, and again, this is a Cliff Note version of the products and services that we offer. So, small business financing. JEDCO gets some funds from Jefferson Parish and from the state that we use to fund small businesses. We don't do any personal loans. Everything we do is small business lending, right? So we kind of have this sweet spot at JEDCO, and we call them JED Grow loans. And the sweet spot is, let's say, from $25,000 up to $250,000. If we go beyond the $250,000, JEDCO is licensed to do the SBA 504 loan. Okay, and so a lot of people, we are licensed to do that, so a lot of businesses do end up coming to us and want to go beyond the $250,000, and we can do that, right? But there are some cases where you guys might say, well, Todd, I think I found a practice, I'm working with a local community bank, but hey, I might need JEDCO to come in to help me get equipment. Great. If you're happy with your current financial team, that's cool. I say continue to do that, but give JEDCO an opportunity to help you get some of the things you might need within said practice, right? So small business financing, tax incentive guidance. Some of you guys may not even realize this, but your practice, you guys might end up in a historic tax district, and you might not even know that, right? Or down the line, you might hire a staff of 5-6 people, right? What I tell people is that the important thing is to continue an open dialogue with me and with the team at JEDCO. Let us know what you're doing. We have people on staff whose whole job is to literally scour the Louisiana Economic Development website and to find different tax incentives and tax breaks that are there for you as a business owner. I.e., okay, well, if you hire 5 people at like a certain pay range, there's tax breaks for that. So Thomas is great at that, and we're great at that as well. Another thing we do is site selection. So when y'all are ready to branch off and go find your own location, now I am not a licensed realtor. No one at JEDCO is a licensed realtor. However, you guys can call me up and you can say, and again, I'm just pulling something out of thin air. You can say, Todd, we're looking in Kenner, and here are the demographics and the spots of kind of where I'm looking. I can go and find what is available, right? What is available to buy, what is available to purchase. I can send that to you, and then you would come back to me and you'd say, Todd, I like A, B, and C property. I find out which real estate agent is attached to that property, and I get you connected to that real estate agent, and you guys kind of start taking it from there. Parish interface is another thing that we do. Once you get yourself established, and let's just say, you know, you need help navigating the Annie building, or Kenner City Hall, or Gretna City Hall, any of those logistical things, those small, minute logistical things that come along with starting your own practice, and, you know, again, I'm making up a scenario. Hey, Todd, you know, I'm having some issues with my neighbor over here. My neighbor over here is not cutting his grass, or something minute like that. Instead of you taking time out of your day and your practice to go and deal with that, call me, and I can kind of be the middleman and represent your business and help you navigate those situations. So it's really, I do have a lot of businesses that do come to me for very small things. One small example I'll give you, there's a new complex that was built out here in Kenner, a new apartment complex, and these guys were putting up all these signs, you know, saying like, hey, we're open, come see us. And they started getting these fines from the city. And they called me and they're like, Todd, we're in the business, why are we getting these fines? And, you know, they didn't really, obviously didn't want to pay it. And so I dug into it, and I found out that basically they were leaving the signs out overnight and they were getting fined for that. But because I called the city and explained to them what was going on and explained it was a new business, they waived all the fines, and they just told me to tell them what the rules are, and there you go, right? So that's a small example of the parish interface. Demographic reports, that's a fancy way of saying traffic reports. JEDCO has the ability to pull any kind of traffic report that you may want or need. And finally, resource connections. As you really start to put your practice together, you are eventually going to want to get out into the community, right? I help you navigate what's right for you. Is the Jefferson Chamber right for you? Is the New Orleans Chamber right for you? The Hispanic Chamber? There's a ton of different organizations to get involved in. So what we do is we can have conversations to kind of decide, okay, who's your demographic? Who are you looking for? Who do you want to reach out to? Who do you want to get connected with? And we help you do that. So we kind of hold your hand from beginning all the way through. And I just kind of tell everybody, don't ever hesitate to just ask. Just email me, because if I don't know, I promise you, someone within the walls of JEDCO will have an answer. You know, and I always kind of end with this one small example of how this all comes together, if y'all bear with me for a couple of minutes. We had a gentleman who came to us, and he just had an idea. He wanted to start a gourmet butcher shop. He didn't even have a business plan. Okay, he had nothing. No business plan, no financing, nothing, just an idea. So what we did was, he came to us, he said, I want to start this gourmet butcher shop. Well, okay, you need a business plan. So we got him connected with somebody in Baton Rouge. They helped him write a true business plan. Then after he had the business plan, he came to us and he needed financing. Once we had that business plan in hand, we were able to navigate and help him to get some true financing, right? So he had the business plan, he had the financing. Then he needed a location. We helped him find the location. He found the location, then he needed funding to get things in said building, right? So we helped him with that. Then he came back to us and said, okay, it's been about a year, things are going well, I need help with marketing. We got him a list of different marketing firms that are here within the city limits. He found a marketing firm that he likes. Next thing you know, I see him on a lot of the local morning shows out there promoting his business. So see, and he's been around for about 3 years now. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with McCord Butchery. It's a butcher shop that's at the beginning of Veterans on like the Jefferson Orleans line. And he is an example, his name's Sam McCord. He is an example of from A to B, right? And all he did was come to us with an idea. And we were able to guide him and help him to where he is today. And we at JEDCO can help you guys accomplish that as well.
Crab cakes, great crab cakes.
Right,
Great cakes.
Tom, the same question was had for Tom. So somebody wants to start their practice, you know, I guess we're using that day. When is what's the lead time that they probably should contact y'all if you want some assistance? We usually experience that with the new business.
If you're trying to, if you want to get started, and let's say you said by August?
Yeah, because most residents will finish their training in the J months, June or May, June. And so they may want to go travel a little bit, but then actually hang out their shingle in August, let's say.
I'd say, you know, just so we can kind of dot all the I's and cross all the T's, like a couple of months.
Right.
You know, because really at the end of the day, what it really kind of all boils down to, again, I'm just making up a scenario. One of y'all emails me and says, Todd, I'm ready to pull the trigger, you know, and I just kind of want to see where I'm at. Well, that starts with a conversation with me. We kind of get a little bit more into the weeds of what you really need. You know, do you need funding for equipment? You know, do you need an actual practice? Do you need office space? Once we kind of determine what some of the core needs are, then I usually turn you over to our finance team and you start talking numbers. And then we kind of go from there. So.
And another question, I'm just bringing up.
Please.
So, obviously with JEDCO, is there an equivalent thing for Orleans Parish, for St. Bernard Parish, et cetera? I know you don't work with them, but, or maybe you do work with them. Are there equivalent organizations as JEDCO?
There are, and that's just maybe not, they might not be as thorough as JEDCO, or they might not offer all the products and services that JEDCO offers, but there are other ones that I can connect people with.
Very good. Well, thanks for coming out.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm not interrupting any questions.
No,
Anybody have any questions for Todd?
Oh, come on.
The loans that y'all service, is that through the parish or is that through a different bank that underwrites it, or? Like
Well,
you guys disperse
it's
that?
great question. Great question. Some of it, it either can be done by us at JEDCO. I mean, we do have the ability to do some underwriting. Sometimes we do partner with local financial institutions to kind of work together. And like I said, when we do the SBA 504, that's through the entire state. So maybe something else to kind of piggyback on what you said, even though we're Jefferson Parish based, because of the fact that we are licensed to do the SBA 504 loan, that covers the entire state of Louisiana. So if you, as long as you start something in Jefferson Parish and you start in Jefferson Parish with JEDCO, again, I'm making up a scenario. Let's just say things are going well and you're like, Todd, I'm ready to expand to Lafayette. Well, if you did the SBA 504 with us, we can continue to help you with that and get you to Lafayette because you started with JEDCO and because you went through the SBA 504. An example of that JEDCO has done would be Five Guys. So Five Guys came to JEDCO. We originally helped them and got them started in Jefferson Parish. But since they came to us and started in Jefferson Parish and they went through the SBA 504, we were able to help them throughout, you know, the rest of Louisiana with some of their other locations. So yeah. Perfect.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys so much. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces.
All right, thanks for coming out again.
Absolutely.
And I'm just, this will tie in some to what Tom said. To start a small practice, so what you're looking for is we want to keep overhead really skinny. Patients don't care about, you know, gold trim fixtures in your office, or whether it's Formica or marble, and you don't need a lot of space. So you want to be looking to rent a space, let's say 1,000 square feet. When you first start out in your practice, you may not need an employee. You probably know how to answer a phone. We'll give you that. So you could handle a lot of this on your own, especially as you're starting out small and you don't have a big patient population. Once your income gets sufficient, then you can look at having a virtual assistant or actually get an employee to at least do some of the clerical tasks. Round numbers, and I've talked about this before, the capital necessary to start the small practice would be in the neighborhood of about $20,000. When you think about what do you need to buy, well, exam tables, computers, some IT equipment. I have a budget spreadsheet, which I didn't include in this. Your malpractice in Louisiana, if you're just starting out, a first-year practitioner is going to be paying probably $9 grand if you go with one agency and less if you go with other agencies. But just keep in mind that your initial capital, providing you don't have to build that office space and you can just rent right out the gate with some place that is doctor friendly. you need maybe 2 exam rooms at the most. Sometimes 1 is all you need. It's nice to have a second. It's a bit of a luxury. Maybe a little office space for yourself, a little reception area. Not a big reception area. You don't have, 50 people in the waiting room. So let's say that's 20 grand. Then you have to, now you're in the office, now you have to pay electric bill. Again, no employee yet. The electric bill you have to pay for your EHR. And this is where you use paper, which would be cool. You have to pay for maybe if you want accounting software. These are subscription type software services. So, and then if you say your malpractice for the year is maybe 10 grand, and so we'll just say your malpractice, if you pay per month, it's about $1,000 a month. You're looking at about 5 grand a month to run the practice. So in essence, the first year, the necessary expenses are $20,000 for the upfront, stocking, tongue blades and exam tables, and then $5,000 a month, or let's say $60,000 a year. So you're looking about $80,000 in capital. Now, that doesn't pay for your personal home Cox Cable or Verizon bill, right? So I'm just talking about the money necessary to run the actual business. And if you figure that you're bringing in, if your monthly or your overhead for a year, again, a skinny practice, patients want a place to see you. It doesn't have to be fancy. Let's say it's $60,000 a year, my example. Let's say it's $80,000 a year. Obviously, it's pretty easy, LLC or S Corp, if you bring in 200 grand in revenue, what you take home is that minus your overhead. So every little bell and whistle you add to enhance your practice that maybe you don't need takes away from your take-home pay. Then you just make this decision, well, if I'm going to add this other feature, is that actually going to enhance my revenue? So you don't want to think skinny, but you want to think skinny when you first get started. You don't want to overextend yourself. Anyway, so I know that's sort of give you, Tom, I'm going to let you continue a bit more, and then I'm going to quit talking and then bring Conrad up. But I just want to give you an idea about what the minimal capital would be to start a practice.
Cool. No, I was just wrapping up 2 things I wanted to mention. One is what Bob was just talking about. One of the most important things for you guys is accounts payables and accounts receivables. A great way to throw money away is paying your bills late. And I hate to say it, but probably 50% of the physicians that I work for have a hard time keeping up with their bills until they're able to have somebody that works for them that's in charge. It would blow your hair back, no pun intended, to show how I have some physicians when they're first starting out have bad credit because they forget to pay their car note because their mortgages are maybe because they're working all day and staying late and doing what they have to do. So payables, accounts payable is very important. Also, if you're going to take Medicare, Medicaid, your accounts receivables, having somebody coding all that stuff on a regular basis and chasing down those payments is not, it is the difference between surviving and not surviving, right? So you have to make sure the accounts receivables, also extremely important in collecting money from the patients as they're coming in and out. I'm already assuming everybody in here is going to be super successful from the day they kick the doors open. The last thing, making sure you know the difference between having a W-2 employee or being a W-2 employee or having a 1099 employee or subcontractor or being a 1099 contractor. A lot of doctors that don't work for one of the big 2 are 1099 by a lot of these larger hospitals. And they don't know that, well, I have a job. Great. You get a 1099? Yes, you don't. If you're a 1099, you fall into this. It drops you right into the exact same thing. You're self-employed, they're not taking any taxes out of your paycheck, and all those things happen. So before I wrap up, I'm going to introduce myself. I forgot. I'm Thomas Fontes with Accounting Services Unlimited. I started the company almost 20 years ago. Started with me. I have 53 employees now. We have an office here in Metairie. We have an office in Slidell. We have an office in San Diego. I have a small office in Miami that I bought from another accountant that still works for me. He hates me. I try to visit him as little as possible, but he's there. We've hired 2 more people out there. So there's 53 of us all together. Sabrina manages all the new clients here in the New Orleans area, Baton Rouge, and Slidell. And if you have any questions or whatever, I'm going to try to stick around as long as I can, but I got to catch a plane in the morning, so I may be cutting out a little bit early. Thanks, Doctor.
Very good, thank you. So in the blue folder, there is a step-by-step guide on how to start your practice. And it's just going through detail in a stepwise basis. And it's nothing that is overwhelming. It's something that methodically you just have to tackle things. You have to get a name for your practice. You have to develop a logo for your practice. You got to pick out a spot. You have to get a tax ID number. You have to get state numbers. You already know, you've been through this game before. You have to get a DEA number, a CVS license in the state. You have the DEA is to do controlled stuff. You have to get a medical license. So there's a lot of things that we methodically have to do anyway as physicians. And this is just another extension of that. But there are plenty of people, including myself, that if anybody's having any problems, will be glad to help. I've helped other people start practices. It's something that I like to do. But one thing I'd like to point out, just since Tom's here, so my model of practice is direct primary care. That means that I am not in network with any insurance company. I do not collect a nickel from any insurance company or government organization. The only funds I receive are membership payments that patients pay me. So in my instance, they pay $75 a month, but a DPC doctor can set whatever. DPC is not a national organization. It's grassroots, where the individual physician says, I want to do this on my own. I don't want to do the Medicare value-based game. I don't want to do HEC CPTs. I don't want to do issues that have to do with billing and collecting, being on the phone with Blue Cross, why aren't you paying this claim? Direct primary care is rather straightforward. So people join you like they would join a gym. In that sense, our accounts receivables, as Tom points out, are predictable. How much money we actually bring in as revenue is the number of patients we have, time, how much they pay us per month. That's our monthly revenue. We can have other revenue streams that can add to that, aesthetics, other cosmetics. There's a lot of other things you can do besides that. But that's our revenue stream. It's not based on whether Medicare pays us or not. Because remember, direct primary care, we don't communicate with any insurance company at all. So it's just, while you're here, I'm saying that's how kind of the different models are. Anyway, I'm going to talk more about the guide, but I would rather, are you having to head out soon? Okay, no, I didn't know did anybody have any questions they want to ask? I'm going to bring up Conrad next. Anybody have any questions they had of Tom or Todd?
Feel free, you can ask me anything you want. Come on.
Do you still see clients yourself?
I do. I try to stick, of all the things in my office, I have 35 bookkeepers, accountants, CPAs that work for me. I like doing this part. I love the sound of my own voice. Always have, always will. And I like the lighting. I like when I stick around, I like when people walk up to me. And so I did an 80-person room, and it took me 45 minutes to get out after I was done. And my wife was with me. If you met my wife, she's smoking hot. And watching her watch me talking to everybody, she came to me, she goes, wow, you were like a rock star. I'm like, I know. So, I like doing this part. I like the enlightened part. And yeah, I met with 2 clients today.
Well, 2 in a phone call.
What's that? 2 and a phone call. And you know what? And I don't like Zoom meetings. I like to meet people. I mean, we have lots of clients on state, but I like to even though I know some of you are going to do stuff on Zoom. And by the way, Jetco, free money. All right, it's not free, but very little interest. It's definitely worth eating up time.
Okay,
they did over $11 million in just finance from Jetco in terms of parish last year. So it's really good.
So the first meeting I had, I had some bankers, loan officers here, and they told me that one of the biggest problems with residents and people starting their practice is that doctors don't pay off their credit card debts, and their scores go to tank. Are you seeing that?
Yes.
So you're not a financial advisor,
No.
But you could have been, but you chose to
Well,
go better route.
I do the accounting side. Financial advisors are gonna sell you products.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, most of the time.
So
Financial advisors are gonna sell you life insurance.
No, give us some fight, give us your practical view of the world as far as where do you see
I'm a
most small
chair.
business people, besides not sending in their 2553?
Where the pitfalls are?
Yeah.
Well, the pitfalls, okay, credit cards. If you can't pay it off at the end of the month, try to stay out of them. Credit will tell you, try to keep your credit cards at 20%. Hey, you're just starting out, you just finished school, you don't have any money, you're gonna live off your credit cards a little bit. But the faster you pay it down, the quicker you bounce back. Your debt to income ratio. Pay attention to that car that you're buying, the house that you're buying, because as you grow in your practices, make sure that if you're buying a car, you're leasing a car, make sure that that payment is barely 10-15% of your gross monthly revenue. The same thing with your house. Just because you make $6,000 a month doesn't mean you want $6,000 a month mortgage. Things like that. You try to keep it small. As the rabbi says, keep it small and keep it off. The more, I like to try to tell you, focus on your, the business. If you can budget yourself to the point to where you know exactly how much you're gonna pay out every month, what your expenses are, your rent, everything. And you focus, and this might be a little salesman in me, and you focus on bringing in as much revenue as possible, right? While always giving the best service. That $5,000 nut every month, when you have $10,000 coming in is good, but when you have $20,000 and you're only paying out $5,000, that's even better. So that's where and there are many different ways of doing that, and you're gonna have to pay me for that information.
Right. This is what I wanted to ask. How do you guys bill? Is it a flat rate or is
No,
it
we're monthly, because one of the things is, as I pointed this out, and that's a great question, we're a monthly fee. We give you a profit and loss statement every month with an updated balance sheet. Profit and loss means it shows you how much money came in, how much money came out, and how much you have left over, right? And so you see that every month. And so we might charge you, when you're first starting out, $250, $300 a month. And then we try to keep it, at least that's how we bill. And then at the end of the year, we'll take a look at your tax return. Whether you're a Schedule C because you're self-employed, but not making enough money, or whether there's an S corp that we do both taxes. But we also meet with you quarterly, if we need to, because I want to, if I see that you're losing money, somebody in my office is going to call you and say, hey, let's get it, or send you an email that says, read the numbers, pay attention. And you may say, yeah, because I bought a bunch of new computers, a whole new phone system, and I hired a new receptionist. So yeah, I'm going to be able to read a little bit for a couple of months. Or even more interesting is when we see you with a big profit, where we say, oh my God, it's June, you've made $100,000 profit in the first 6 months of the year. If you keep this up, you're gonna hit $200,000. We need to adjust your payroll and give you the raise. It might be time for you to knock down the wall and take another like the location next door to you and expand and invest in your practice to avoid paying taxes. It might be time for that big retirement plan. But it's important to have that communication constantly. And what you have to remember is you're not going to have the time. So the better you set it up at the beginning, the easier it is it's going to be down the road. Because eventually you're going to ignore the emails from us, right? You're going to ignore a lot of things because you're going to have paperwork to deal with. You're going to have patients to deal with. You're going to have patients that you're going to follow along to make sure that they're recovering, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Things that you won't know, unless you guys think I'm crazy. Yeah, but so yeah, we charge a few $100 a month, and that's it.
And this is considered bookkeeping?
Could consider bookkeeping.
Okay. But it's not like tax preparation, all of that.
Do the tax preparation, we just do it once a year, right?
Right.
So I have the tax people, you're gonna handle, an accountant's gonna do your bookkeeping. My tax person, my enrolled agent or my CPA is gonna handle your taxes at the end of the year.
Okay.
It's
And that's
included
it.
in the fee?
No.
No, it's separate.
No, because some people, you might own rental properties.
Okay.
You might show up and tell me, oh, by the way, I didn't give you all the extra bank statements or credit cards and stuff like that. See, you missed the first 15 minutes. That was good. Good stuff. Yeah.
And this is not payroll either. This is
It's
just
not
strictly-
payroll. As Dr. Carl said, prepare yourself for payroll. Your payroll should never surpass 30% of your gross income. And that's not including yourself, but your employees, you should never pay everybody more than 30%. That's kind of how you know. When you know you're not picking up the phone anymore and you're bringing in $12,000, $15,000 a month and you're missing phone calls, it's time to hire somebody. Come on, pay somebody, $15 an hour to take messages for you, or a virtual assistant, like you said. That's kind of where I kind of put the number at 30%. If you see your payroll is down to 20%, that means something's gone wrong. That means your service is probably tanking. So you want to make sure to bring it up and make sure that everything's taken care of.
What if you take one of us as a consultation and you realize now everything we've been doing is so jacked up?
That happens every day. Did I tell you I had 3 meetings today? All 3 of them were jacked up. All 3 of them. Some of them own payroll taxes that they haven't paid, sales taxes, which you guys don't really have to deal with unless you start to. Are there any chiropractors in here? No, right? Chiropractors, all of a sudden they're slinging pillows and they have to pay sales taxes on them.
I sling pills.
You sling pillows? Okay, see? All right. So the sales tax, exactly.
Yeah, I go to the sheriff's website every month.
You sling your pillows, okay. So stuff like that. So no, I do with Jack. I also own another company called Louisiana Tax Relief, where we have a couple of tax attorneys that we work with. And those are for people that are really screwed up. People that owe 50, 100, 150, 200, 250,000. I've had a lawyer who owed over $1 million in taxes, who had an IRS agent assigned to him already. And when we finished 7 years of taxes for him, corporations, everything, we told the agent, we're about to send these to you. And he said, before you send these to you, did he tell you about the hotel in the Bahamas? No, what hotel in the Bahamas? Call your client. So yeah, that's So yeah, I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot.
There are payroll tax services separate, or if you have QuickBooks Online, it's all fairly easy to do.
ATP, Paychecks.
Yeah.
There's a local one that's pretty good called Person Payroll. Who do you guys use, Conrad, for payroll?
I have no idea. I have a manager for that.
I use QuickBooks.
You use QuickBooks Payroll? Okay.
You ask me questions I don't know the answer to.
And your services are tax writable.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm a tax deductor. Yeah, and if you need me to charge you more to get a better tax rate, I'm open to it.
And Genco services are free. Right?
Yeah. So bad. See, no bad. No. The interest is tax deductible.
There you go.
The interest.
All right, well, thank you.
Okay, is that it for me?
Conrad Meyer, he's with Sherman Williams, and he's certified in healthcare law. And what I wanted to have him talk to you all about, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, a medical legal conference can go on for days, and they probably do. But what I want to talk about is specifically what us fledglings have to do in the legal world to look at this. And I already brought up the non-competes, how they're kind of a little better now. Many of you know my angle is I don't like the whole RVU, typical fee-for-service system. I don't like the employment model because physicians get trapped into that. And I want, Conrad, you just roll with it. Whatever you feel like after this conversation you think people could benefit from.
Since we have a small audience, would you mind, I'm just going to sit down and take a round table because I find this is a lot easier than me standing up and pacing around. So, thank you, Carl, for letting me come. This is a pleasure to meet all of you. Hard to jam a tremendous amount of legal stuff in 20 minutes. Very difficult, so I'll do the best I can. For those of you who've been practicing and who have been in an RVU situation, can you raise your hand? Only one? Okay. Well, how many of you do not know what RVUs are? Okay, all the residents. Okay, so that's typically what happens. So when I get resident contracts on their first job, they don't understand RVUs. So RVUs are simply a portion of a CPT code that you bill. So whatever your top 10 codes, or if you're doing a family, you're doing E&M codes, all those are attached to a CPT. Part of that CPT is an RVU, WRVU, the work portion. And so that work portion is quantifiable. And so to track you, big systems will utilize your billing claims to determine how much of your actual work is being done. And they've got it down to a science. Okay, they've got surveys all over the country from different companies like MGMA or Sullivan Clotter that will predict what the average RVUs are, work RVUs for a PCP, primary, internal med, the gamut of what that looks like. And so these big box systems will offer you a contract and they will tell you, it's like a casino almost. It's not a casino, almost. It is like a casino, they always win. Because they're gonna offer you a base salary that's gonna be probably below the 50th percentile. They're gonna offer you a target RVU that's gonna be very high, maybe in the 60th or 65th percentile, with a reimbursement RVU, like $1 per RVU that's below the 50th percentile. That is a lose-lose across the board, because they're making all the money on you on the delta. And what does that mean? That means that if your average RVUs are like 5,000 RVUs, and let's just say that's what 50% of all PCPs are producing in the southern region, all right? And let's use whole numbers. And let's say the average dollar per RVU is $50 per RVU. That's the average in southern region primary care. And at the average salary total comp for that, let's just say it's $100,000, just for the sake of argument, okay? They're going to offer you a contract that says, we will offer you a base salary of $80,000, right below. We're going to make you your target RVU at 6,000 RVUs, and we're going to pay you $45 per RVU for every RVU over 6,000. So that means that you're getting paid less than the median. The carrot they're going to say is, oh, we give you a production contract. We're going to tell you, if you produce more than 6,000, the 6,001, for that one RVU, you're getting it $45. So they're hoping that you see this never-ending carrot of running and you get stuck in. Now, they're going to offer you, like, honestly, and as much as Carl, and I love Carl, I've been knowing him for 20 years. I've been doing this 25 years. Just a background about me, real quick, I didn't even talk about me. Was that I'm a board certified healthcare lawyer. I was a healthcare administrator for HCA. I ran Lakeview Regional before I started law. I teach health law at Loyola Law School. I teach at UNO for the MHA program. So I've been doing this a really long time. I love it. I love healthcare. So anyway, that's quick and skinny about me. The big box systems, and as much as I love Carl and the DPC model, I understand why he went to that. I understand why people go to that. Because when you get hit with a contract right out of residency, you've been living on freaking rice and beans for so long, you're like, oh my gosh, I finally hit it right out here. It's so easy. I don't want to go form an LLC. I don't want to go call Genco. I don't feel like talking to accounting services guy, whatever. I just want to go somewhere and make money and not have to worry about that. And he knows what I'm talking about. And so you going in and look, for some people, that might work. But you get trapped. And here's how you get trapped. They will, first off, everything's going to have a non-compete. And Carl and I talked about this. Louisiana has a new non-compete law, which is phenomenal for y'all. It took us decades to get it. But now there's a cap. Like from here on out, and we'll real simple. It's really easy. It's not difficult. Starting January 1 of this year, all primary care specialties have a 3-year cap on a non-compete. 3 years. What does that mean? If you're currently in a contract, starting January 1, the clock starts. So from January 1, 2025, when you hit January 1, 2028, guess what? You have no non-compete. If you start now, anytime you start now, 3 years from the start date, if you're a primary care specialist, if there's a non-compete, it'll just sunset. It'll be gone. You can go do whatever you want. That's the nuts and bolts of the non-compete. Now, back to big box. If you go into a system and you get the contract, it might be beneficial because you don't have to worry about marketing. You don't have to worry about Genco. You don't have to worry about a lease. You don't have to worry about personnel. You don't have to worry about QuickBooks. You don't have to worry about taxes. Everything's done. You literally get a paycheck, and that is very enticing for some. Okay. The question here are the pitfalls that I've seen with 20 years of doing 25 years doing contracts for primary care docs. Any doc, really, the specialists, all of them, is when you go in, and most of them do an all RVU production contracts that you must meet some sort of production. Number one is they don't market the doctor enough. One thing I want to know is how much marketing are you going to do for that physician to help them get started in their practice? Because you don't just walk in a practice and say, oh, I'm here, patients come. It doesn't work like that. You know, so you have to get out, network, people have to know who you are, you have to know, hey, that's a friendly person, that's a good doctor. You have to connect and build relationships, okay? And that's hard for some people. Others, you need to have a hospital say or a system say, well, what are you gonna do for me, okay? So that's on the big box side. Then the next thing is, okay, if I'm having an RVU production contract, there's only so much market share, right? New Orleans, for example, New Orleans, I don't know if most of you, everybody lives here, but New Orleans is like the biggest, smallest city in the world. And so there's only so much market share. So if you are a doctor in a big box system and working on an RVU production contract, my next concern is dilution. How many more family residents are you gonna hire next year? And the year after? And the year after? How many more family practices are you gonna affiliate with? So in other words, is my patient population shrinking, where that target RVU that you set for me is almost impossible? I can't make it. And then does the contract say, if you don't hit the target, is the base salary I paid, is there a clawback? What that means is if my target is 5,000 RVUs, let's just say, or let's say 6,000, and my base salary is 80,000, and I get paid $45 per RVU over 6,000, if I get only 5,000 RVUs, not 6,000, well, I have a deficit of 1,000. What they say is, well, we'll take 1,000, we'll multiply it by 45, and we want to get a clawback off your salary for that. If we want to take $45,000 off my salary because I didn't hit that's an extreme idea, but it happens. So you have to look at that. So advantages of big box, you worry about nothing except meeting the critical time, right? The disadvantages are you have dilution, marketing, you got non-competes, and then you've got the culture you're going to be in, and from peer to peer, from Carl to you, is going to be one of they're going to ride you for production because you are money, and they're going to want you to refer all your patients for services in that network, okay? And they're going to push you for that, and it depends on how much. And you're going to have your panel is going to be it's going to be anything and everything, because they want you to see as many people as you can to get those numbers up. Okay, that's the model. The gotcha moment is the non-compete. That's the handcuff.
I want to interject here. I mentioned this earlier. The model is exactly the employer wants you to refer to multiple subspecialists. If you're a family practitioner and you're full scope or broad scope, and you do a lot of things on your own, so a patient comes to see you, and you can take care of their rash, you can take care of their bad knee, and you can take care of their whatever. If you're as a good family practitioner, if you do all three of those things on a patient's one visit, the system doesn't like you, because you're just seeing that one person that you saw for 3 problems. The system would want you to refer that to.
They're going to say stay in your lane. They're going to say stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. Refer out. And let me tell you what you lose in a big box. And some of you might disagree later. I would love to see if you go in a big box. Come see me in 5 years and tell me what you think. Is you lose what I think you really got into medicine for, and that's patient advocacy. I mean, that's what you got in here for. That's why you did this. When you go to big box, your ability to really advocate, it's hard. It's not as easy. Okay? Now, when you go, I've covered the primary, I've covered the non-compete. I mean, it's as basic as you can get.
Can I ask on the non-compete real quick?
Yeah, sure.
So it's 3-year.
3-year.
Sunset one or whatever.
January 1st, 2025, start the clock to this year. Are you in a current contract?
Yeah, we've talked before actually on the phone.
You did?
Yeah. So I don't have a non-compete.
Well, I promise you I didn't grab your name purposely. Okay, well, yeah.
But I'm just curious, so I know they passed the law on this.
They did.
Can they, if a contract renews, can the non-compete renew, or how does that work?
No,
Or
it's
is
the
it-
same entity. Even if the renewal, if it's an auto renewal, it doesn't matter. It's
Sure.
just,
So
it's
it's
the
3 years
total amount of
period.
time under that entity.
Yeah.
So in other words, let's just use, medical hospital, Memorial Hospital, we'll make it something up. Memorial Hospital LLC employs you, right?
Sure.
It's for a 2-year contract, and then it auto renews in year 3. Memorial Hospital is still employing you, it's auto renewing,
Okay.
it doesn't reset the clock.
And they can't, okay.
Now, if they come to you and say, hey, we're gonna do a spin-off on a physician practice group, we're gonna call it Memorial Hospital Physician Practice Group LLC, and that group is gonna employ you, then guess what? That restarts the clock. It's a new entity, depending, unless that entity that's new is a sub of a parent company. It's a whole different analysis.
So location change wouldn't be a thing. Okay.
Location, as long as it's the same entity, you can go from West Bank, excuse me, here,
Sure.
East Bank, West Bank, doesn't matter where, Metairie, Kenner, doesn't matter.
Okay.
Location has geolocation has no issue in the non-compete law. But from the top, from the
Sure,
sunset.
no, I get you. I just, there's something that occurred to me.
Now, the other thing they do with the non-compete law-
It said they could, in my organization, they can relocate us if there's a.
Well, then you need to look at that contract, because one of the biggest things at the very beginning, it says, you will serve from time to time at various locations as we see fit. You can always put a mile radius on that and say, okay, within 5 miles of a primary location, so that you're not going from, say, Tammany to New Orleans. Because they'll shuffle you around.
Sure.
So the other thing in the non-compete, thank you for the geolocation, they limit it to 3 contiguous parishes. Gone are the days, I picked up a non-compete the other day and had 13 parishes on it. It's crazy. And so 3 parishes, contiguous, they all have to touch each other. That's the new non-compete, okay?
Okay, and I'm sorry to harp on this.
That's right, it's
This
free
is something else when I read it.
language.
I read that law and I was really confused. The 3 contiguous parishes,
Yeah,
who determined which 3 and when?
they do.
They do at
Yeah.
the time you're leaving?
That's a good question. So the one I had was 13 parishes, and that's exactly the question they came up with. Had a guy leave Ochsner, he was ready to roll out, and they were doing a release agreement, and they said, well, we want to do the non-compete for the 3 contiguous parishes. I'm like, well, who the hell are you to decide? And they said, well, we think we get to decide. I said, I think we get to decide. I said, let's go ahead and have a judge do it. And we settled.
Yeah.
We settled.
Yeah.
But that's not been decided yet. I think the tendency would be to allow the employer to do it. That's what I would think.
Sure.
But it's not been judicially decided, and there's nothing in the statute that says who picks.
Yeah.
Okay.
It feels like if they wait until they know where you want to go, and they go,
Absolutely, 100%. Absolutely, 100%.
So somebody who is an employed situation, even the non-compete, let's say that's clear. What's the malpractice implication there also?
Well, that's a total different story. So when you say malpractice, what do you mean?
Tail coverage, who's providing?
That's different. So now we're going deep into contracts now. So tail coverage, how many of you are familiar with tail? 1, 2. Okay, so tail, and for those of you familiar who are not familiar, all tail coverage is for when you roll out, if someone sues you for what you did when you were in, you have to have coverage for that. So you're long gone. You're from practice A to practice B, and let's say it's been a year, 2 years. In Louisiana, I have a 3-year preemption period with a 1-year date of discovery. So let's just say 2 years after you roll out of the A and you're in B, someone says, oh, you screwed up. You did something, blah, 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 and they file a suit against you. Well, if you have coverage only in B, how are you going to cover A? That's what tail does. Tail covers you for the tail when you were there. For usually in Louisiana we do 3 years. Other states have their own statutes. Usually a 3-year tail with coverage limits. That's tail.
So
and who pays? Who pays is a big deal.
Right, and so somebody who's leaving a practice, and that applies to anybody here or friends who are leaving a practice. That's another reason to have a healthcare attorney on board.
100%.
Because that's very sticky.
I'm not gonna. Thank callers. Look, I'm not tooting my own horn. Okay, I'm not. But don't. Please, God, don't go to your best friend, whoever, oh, they're my friend, they're going to hook me up, I'm going to hook you up. If they don't know and they have not done this, do not give them the document that controls your work life. Do not, please. That would be like me going to see somebody who's got a sign on a snowball stand that says, I'm a doctor and I can help you, have a bubble gum. And me talking to them about my medical needs because they're cheaper or for whatever reason. Oh, I know them. Don't do that. I don't care who you go see, me or not, doesn't matter. You go see an attorney that knows what they're doing and ask them, what have you done? What experience do you have? Just like patients will ask you, how long have you been practicing? What have you done? And you have to answer that. I mean, they want to know. They want to know about you.
The same thing I asked about Tom and Todd.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to start a practice. I'll stick with August. When should they start engaging legal advice? I'm talking about coming out of residency.
So if you do brick and mortar, start your own practice, whatever, maybe lease agreement. I mean, I would tell you that you're gonna have to get credentialed with payers. That takes 90 to 120 days. You're gonna have to get your lease up.
Let's make it simpler, please, right now. Direct primary care. They're not going to be credentialing with
Okay,
payers.
well, let me get to the advantage of DPC, because I want to speak about that, because that was the next part of that. So, but that DPC is a different animal. So we've gone over big box, we've gone over that. Okay, so to Carl's model, DPC or concierge or whatever you want to call it, they all have different models. He has a DPC model. It's similar to a concierge. I think they all have very good advantages. And the reason why is it takes all the headache out. It is literally, like you said, it's PM. It's a per member per month. You have a panel. You have usually a set panel. Because the advantages of that are Carl probably knows every single patient by first name. He can spend as much time as he wants with them in an office. He can sit down and talk to them. I have a concierge practice, and I spent my wellness visit last 2 hours. I mean, 2 hours. When's the last time you sat down with a patient for 2 hours and talked about everything? You can do that in a DPC. You can do that, because you get to know these people. Now, the challenge is for you is getting your panel up. And that's through marketing, through relationships. It doesn't just come to you. But, so you get the per member per month payment. You set it like Carl said, whatever you want. And it's like a club. They pay you. You don't worry about insurance. You don't worry about it. You have, I might disagree with Carl on paper records. I like e-charts. So I can't read handwriting. I'm sorry. Can't do it.
I use e-charts.
Okay, good.
I just harken back.
I get it. You're nostalgic. I understand. But I think, honestly, so you have to choose your lifestyle. And let me tell you, to start off going into a DPC might be more difficult, but then you can affiliate with somebody and start working there. And if your panels get big enough, then all of y'all are working on that, right? All y'all are sharing. So you can have a DPC practice of multiple physicians with set panels. Because at some point, if you have, like for Carl, and maybe you can speak to this, Carl, your panel people keep calling you and you have a wait list and you're like, man, I can't help you. And if you don't have someone to offload them, then there's people just waiting. Where you can start having another person come in and you can start offloading a wait list up to a new DPC doctor. And it might take you a while, but I can tell you this, having a panel of 400 versus 2,000 or 3,000, because I was a general counsel for an IPA at it was People's Health. And I used to see all the numbers, and they had guys with a panel of 2,000. And that's just insane amount of patients. So imagine having patients you can manage, you can talk to, spend time with, you don't have to worry about insurance. It's a club, it's a club, right? And what are the benefits? They can call you 24-hour appointments.
Yeah, I never advertised.
You never advertised
24/7 access. But I advertise.
Listen, I'm not saying you personally, but there are advantages to being able to do that.
Yes, right. Yes.
I can call and get an appointment in a day, 2 days. I got this nurse. I can get done amazingly. So quick. So you have the risk. The risk is on the DPC side, on the concierge side, is building up your panel.
And I'm going to say this. When you mention concierge, their direct primary care by law in Louisiana is that we do not bill third parties.
That's correct.
We don't send a claim at all. Period. We don't use
concierge does.
Concierge, yeah, concierge does the monthly, but they also bill.
They bill.
We don't bill.
Hey, Bill. So I mean, so he's correct. So the real issue is know who you are, know where you want to go, and you might have to go to big box starting to get your name out. And then once you get recognized and people start coming to you, oh, I'm coming to see Dr. So-and-so. They don't come to see, LCMC primary care on Napoleon. They come to see Dr. So-and-so. I'm coming to see you.
You got to realize that. You just have to
They don't give a damn about the brick and mortar. They come to see you or you or you. Why? Because they trust you. You have developed a rapport with every patient because you spend time and you connected. And so over time, when you build up those connections, right, then you can make a decision. It might not happen now. It might not. I mean, I'm being straight. I told Carl I'm being straight. It might not happen now. But if you go in, that's why I like the non-compete law. If you go in, if it's not for you right now, you go in, you build your reputation, you get known. There's someone here locally, and then, okay, 3 years, I'm rolling out. I'm gonna go start my place. I'm gonna take the 500 people that I've been knowing for the last 3 years, and I'm gonna be my own DPC mom, right? So only you know that. We can tell you all day long what the regulation is. I can tell you all day long about a contract. I can talk the funny jokes about the accounting stuff, whatever. I mean, he's a funny guy. So, but we can talk about LLCs, contracts, lease agreements, and all that. But bottom line, when it comes down to deciding what you want to do, whether you're going to go in-house in a group system or concierge, or maybe not now, but later, BPT, whatever, that's on you. On you.
So, I would say it turns to New Year's, January,
Yeah.
and I think I want to do DPC. When do I call the healthcare attorney? When do I engage that?
I'd say soon.
What would be the ideal
To set it up?
Yeah.
I mean, because, I would tell you, you're pulling the ripcord at 30 days, but I would love to get 90 days out. 60 to 90 days out. It's not as complex because you don't have insurance. So you're not been credentialed, right? But getting the EHR lease, if you're going to do that, setting up a lease, like a brick and mortar lease, getting your marketing, your branding, because you're going to want to do that, right? Getting all that set up, getting your form file set up. You need forms for things, for debit forms, social media release form, all the nitpicky stuff. We can help with all that. It's not a big deal. Really what's going to come down to
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. I guess I've been doing it for so long, I'm like, but it's a big deal.
But as a person who's starting an independent practice, if you got to do OSHA stuff, even if you're DPC,
yes,
you could skirt. You don't want to skirt HIPAA. It still applies, but there's just certain regulatory things that there are better people than me to arrange that stuff because it's a legal compliance issue.
Yeah, we can help with all of that. Yeah. We can help with all of that. So I want to be real. I want to tell you, you.
90 days for DPC,
maybe
more if you want to do an insurance-based model.
Yes, 120 for insurance-based on the concierge. Yeah, easily. Yeah, because you'll never get credentialed with payers before that. It takes them forever. In Blue Cross, like molasses in winter.
That's a credentialing question I got for you.
Yeah.
So for, I believe it's the Medicare opt-out, can you speak anything as to if you're going from, a fee-for-service, credentialed with all these entities into a DPC, how that opt-out works and how
It forms for that.
Okay, but so what is the time? Because my understanding was like there's a day, there's a certain day per where the either opt-in or opt-out occurs.
I think it's every November.
Is it?
Oh yeah, that's the opt-in, opt-out. Yeah. Like with Medicare Advantage and enrollment, I don't know the answer. Why don't you email me? Since you called me, you have my email. You can email me that, and I can answer that for you.
You're asking, is there a specific date of the year?
Well, because the thing I'm wondering, yes,
Because there isn't actually.
There's not. Okay. What I was trying to understand, I guess, is I understand that
I know what you're referring to. See, for you to opt in Medicare as a physician, like a Medicare provider or a Medicaid provider.
Yeah, if I'm a provider in their system, my understanding was that there's
Wait, I'm stopping right here.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're not a provider. You're a physician.
Sure, physician. Yeah. So So I'm a physician in their system, so I've got whatever, a Medicaid number, Medicare number, I've got, if you are opting out, my understanding was that there's a certain date you have to wait for to occur before you
If you try to opt back in,
okay.
there's a shutout time.
Oh, yeah, there is a shutout time for
If
that.
you want to opt back in, then there's a time.
Okay, so you
time
can
there.
opt out
You
and
can opt out,
but
you have to do whatever you want.
Anytime.
Okay.
You stay in Pecos.
You can even see Medicaid patients, by the way, on a DPC, by the way. You can
Yes.
see Medicaid patients on DPC.
Oh, you can?
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
How you like that?
You have
You
to
could charge them
enroll.
too? They could pay monthly? Because it used to be, you can't charge Medicaid.
You won't charge Medicaid. You're not.
No,
a
I know.
Medicaid patient can pay you.
Right, I heard they couldn't.
No, I
It's
see.
legal to charge Medicaid patients the monthly,
It is not.
It's not.
It is not.
You're good. You're good to go.
okay.
Do you
You
have
do-
to opt out to do that though, or is that?
Of Medicaid?
Yeah.
You technically, right, Medicaid, you still, there's something called OPR, ordering, prescribing, and referring. Medicaid, it's an Obamacare thing that Louisiana just kept kicking the can down the road until 2 years ago, that you have to opt into the OPR part, ordering, prescribing, referral of Medicaid. But to be part of that OPR part, you do not have to see Medicaid patients, you don't have to, and you do not have to bill Medicaid if you're seeing a Medicaid patient. So it's totally legal to have a Medicaid patient join your
As a
practice.
member. Okay.
Yeah.
What's confusing is the Medicare, because I noticed you could be a Medicare provider under several different systems. You have to do the credentialing for Medicare every time you're in a new healthcare system.
Yeah, the Medicare follows you as an individual. If you're enrolled in Medicare so you could work at an urgent care, but you're in a DPC practice, even though you may want to be no Medicare, but the fact that you're enrolled in Medicare somewhere else means that technically, legally, if you see a Medicare patient in your practice, you have to bill Medicare for that service.
Okay.
Because
Even
it's
though
the same,
your
because the same
institution
services that Medicare
has not
pays.
enrolled.
Is that?
Even though your institution, your DPC has not enrolled in Medicare, but you're working and seeing Medicare patients in other
You're technically a Medicare
institutions.
provider. So when a Medicare patient comes to see you in another setting, you can't charge them for services that you could bill Medicare for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your DPC institution, so to speak, doesn't enroll in anything.
Right.
You as the physician is what enrolls. And so
Right.
that follows you wherever you go.
So it might not be the best right now for residents with no patient base. You have no marketing and nobody knows you. But for those of you who've been out, it might be better. And those of you who might want to work and then come later out, I think it's a game changer. Because I think most primary care physicians I know, and I have clients who want to advocate for patients. That's why they got into this, to advocate for patients. And so what's happened with big box and insurance, and we've had this conversation, is that there's no longer an advocate for patients. Because you have to spend so much time on denials, so much BS, red tape, you're in big box chasing an RVU, and you've lost sight of why you came to do this, right?
And when you call a big box, you don't get your primary care physician, you often get a nurse practitioner.
Yeah, they're gonna
It's a
shove
wall.
they're gonna shove APPs right down your throat.
Yes.
And let me tell you how much I trust APPs.
Oh my gosh.
I like them. I'm not saying I don't like them, but I don't trust them. They have no way the training that you have. No way. Not any given day. So, I'm sorry.
So for like a resident starting out that already knows they want to do concierge or DPC, like
Right.
what can we do like now to make it better, like easier when we're done?
You mean to set yourself up so that when you do graduate in June, then, okay.
Because you're saying you have to build up like clientele. And
What do you? Okay, so, right? Because it depends. Carl can chime in from his point of view on this, but my point of view is what I see is you don't have the patient base because nobody knows you. So it would be very difficult. I'm not going to lie to you for you to start a DPC practice with nobody, right? You'd be pulling out lines of credit and trying to market to get them in. It'll be hard unless you. One way to solve that problem would be to affiliate with someone like Carl who already has a practice if he has the overage, right? If he doesn't have the overage, maybe someone else does. If they don't have the overage, then you have to make a decision, market yourself, and how much risk do you want to take, right? Or do you go to the system, do your 3 years, have the non-compete sunset, build your reputation there, and then come out after that and start a DPC or whatever after that?
Hey, can I say something? I think it used to be, and I don't know if it still is,
That's my wife, Pam.
and I've been through all of this.
Who's
okay, so
right? We've bitten each other's nails.
Right. I mean, I've been through the whole thing from one practice to the other. I do think, though, that if you want to become a private practice doctor, DPC is a hard way to start in the beginning.
Yes.
But if you still want to be private practice, I still think that, like, when people sign up for, if you take insurance, which is the devil, but if you sign up for like 5 insurances, you're going to get patients, because when people sign up, they have to pick a doctor.
That's
And
true.
they have to pick a doctor on a plan. So, to me, the happy medium is not to sign up for the big box if you can help it, because they'll restrict when you get off, how many hours you work,
That's true.
how many patients you see, and unless you get like a really tight, because for 5 years, Carl worked for people. He worked for
People's
somebody,
Life. You
then he
remember that.
went on his own practice, and then he sold his practice actually to Tenet,
TPS?
which dissolved.
That's right.
Physician services.
And so when he did his contract, because he's so savvy, he made him write down what his hours were to be. These are the hours I'm gonna work.
And
Well,
maximum patient load.
Right, his patient load. And a couple of years later, they came and said, oh, we want you to work more hours. He pulls out his contract, he said, here's my contract. I'm not working any more hours because you signed this contract. So they said, well, he had an on-clinic, so he got to do it. And then Tenet ended and he went back to private practice.
Right.
But, I mean, he was lucky because he bought out in somebody's practice. So if you can find a physician who's retiring, then a lot of times they'll let you buy out over time their practice, and they'll send out recommendations for patients. Like the doctor said, I'm retiring, this is who I'm selling my practice to, this is the doctor I recommend, and he just kind of picked up right from the get there and had a patient list. Like, we were scared and thinking like, okay, well, I guess I have to work more, because he went from being employed to now walking out the door. He couldn't advertise or anything, walking out the door, but he had a bunch of patients. And a lot of patients, if you find a physician that's retired and they say, I recommend this one, a lot of people, if they trust that physician, then they'll go to you. So that's one way to build your practice.
That's a great idea, but also when you buy a practice, you're not buying patients.
Right.
You can't buy the patients.
No.
You're
but-
buying tables and chairs, which really aren't worth a lot, right? But you can get a hook on that guy's
You
book.
can get that, but you can get their patient. You can get their
Right. That's a smart way to do
their
it.
mail. You can get their whole patient list and say,
Right.
I'm now taking over this doctor's practice. And most of the doctors, if they like you, they'll send out, his doctor sent out a letter to the
Right.
patient saying, I'm selling my practice, this is the one I'm recommending. But the other way is to sign up with insurances. If you can't do direct primary, if you sign up Blue Cross, certain people, you can only go to certain doctors if you're on Blue Cross. So that way, when people look through the book, they'll get a name.
If you want to start a DPC right out of residency, let's say you want to, let's say you want to practice, I don't know, in Gretna, whatever. But you're in residency, and it's January, so you can find your space in Gretna, your office space, and you can set up a DPC billing platform, and you advertise to Gretna that in August, I'm opening my primary care practice in Gretna at this location. Space is limited. If you want to enroll with me now, they can go and enroll with you now, but their checking account isn't going to get drafted until you technically open your practice. So you can open early enrollment in your practice, and so when the time you open your gates, you may already have 100 people enrolled with you. So and we can talk about that in more detail, but there are ways.
That's a good comment. I like your comment about that. I didn't think about that. That's really smart. If you can find a practice you can buy or get in, right when they're getting old and rolling out, if they still exist, right?
And there's doctors wanting to quit.
Oh yeah, they're done. Yeah.
So kind of what she said, this doctor is giving a bunch of contacts to you through that process. If you have, he's in like a big box practice, has a lot of patients that like him a lot. If he doesn't have non-compete, by the grace of God, that's not in his contract, but like, he has a non-solicitor, like.
Yeah, the non-solicitation.
And that's
what
okay.
that
So
mean?
basically, so there's a non-solicit, right? That
Yeah.
means you can't usually directly solicit
That's what I was
patients
wondering, like-
for a period of years or two after. But it doesn't prevent you, some of them put the word indirect in there, but I've always tried to get them to take it out. But if you put a billboard up or you tag it, they're gonna find you, right? As long as you don't show that you're directly mailing to them or calling them or emailing them directly from you, hey, I moved over here, hey, come see me over here. That's really
You
all.
put a billboard up at the
Right.
hospital, like.
I can't wait, because I'm telling you, January 1, 2028, I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of moving. And then in January 1, 2030, when the specialists hit, I think it's going to be Armageddon. I think it's going to be wild, wild west.
Specialists they have to wait 5 years.
For specialists.
Right, yeah.
So I'm waiting for those 2 days to drop, because it's going to be wild, wild west in Louisiana, I promise you.
But you can do social, you don't have to, like you said, you can put a billboard,
Good.
you can put a sign
Best place,
around or.
best place to church, your local church,
Right.
throw it in a church magazine, right there, boom.
And people might potentially feel, I don't know, different ways on it, but at least, so where I am, I'm down in St. Bernard. One, I guess they're just really hurting for doctors and nurse practitioners really down there, but the people are beating down doors if you just provide a couple of certain services, and the reality is it's a lot of it is if you're willing to help people with weight loss, if you're willing to do Botox injections for headaches, if you're willing, so like if that's part of your practice model, at least initially, and maybe that's not your dream of like, hey, this is exactly what I want to do, but if you look at it and say, well, this is what's in demand.
Be careful with that. Okay, I agree with you there, but I'm gonna put a caveat on you right now.
Sure.
If you're doing weight loss, you better be documenting that correctly, because the board's looking at that.
Sure.
Every chart, they better have a BMI, they have a total assessment on that, everything. Because the board will come after you for that on GLP-1s. On Botox, you better go to CME that you've got training on Botox. If you've got no training on Botox, and if you either go on a little 1 hour CME and you go on uptodate.com and you say, oh, Brandon, I'm done, hey. No, you got to go to a CME, otherwise they will hit you. I've already dealt with this because the med spas are everywhere.
Sure.
So just be real careful when you do that. I'm not saying you can't.
Sure.
Get the CME for the Botox, and if you're doing GLP-1s, make sure you're documenting that record appropriately. Don't just blend. You're gonna have GLP-1 parties.
Sure.
Just be careful how you document.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
So also, I have a question. If I heard that you have to be affiliated with some hospital. Is that mandatory? Like we have.
Who told you that?
Like.
Was it you have to be affiliated with a hospital?
If I'm opening my own practice.
No. Absolutely not.
I'm not
No.
affiliated with any hospital.
No, you don't have to do that. There's no requirement for that.
Now, if you want to make rounds at a if you want to go take care of your patients, you can be on
That's
staff at
different.
that
You need to
hospital.
get privileges.
But no, I mean, I still go say hi to my patients a lot of times, but I don't do anything. But I don't want to get close to Epic, so.
I just want to close the loop on that Medicare patient. Is there a law in DPC that if you're still taking care of Medicare patients outside of your practice, that any Medicare patient that comes to your DPC, you cannot bill them per month, or?
I think Medicare, you're gonna opt out. The patient's gonna opt out because
Medicare you're talking about?
Yeah,
Medicaid, not Medicaid.
Just Medicare.
I mean,
But you can sign that, you can have them sign an agreement
to not bill.
to not, that.
Or the opt out.
That you're providing you're providing another service.
Here's the thing.
I have a form for that. I can't remember what it's called, but I did one for the Shreveport doc. I can't remember what it's
Here's
called.
the thing. Medicare, by law, does not pay for routine care.
Right.
Only for illness care.
Oh.
I've done this before. I didn't check with Conrad first before I did. I don't do this anymore. You can say that you're hey Medicare patient, you're going to pay me $75 a month, really $900 a year, or I'm making something up. And the purpose of that $900 is for an annual routine physical.
care, because Medicare doesn't cover that.
Okay, Medicare doesn't cover it. But now if they come and see you with a sprained ankle,
That's different.
by law, you should bill Medicare. Now, Medicare is going to bust people that are seeing 30 patients every 5 minutes, right? They're not caring about that, but still technically, if you don't bill for a Medicare...
I'll pretend I did not hear a word he just said. I'll pretend that, but he's right, you can't do that. Here's what I will tell you, don't do it. Do it routine care. If they got something else, refer them out. If you can do that. He's right, he's right.
Oh, you mean you're saying don't even treat?
Don't do it. Don't do it. If they got a broken ankle or whatever, send them to the ER, send them out.
Any kind of sick visit.
You can't, for routine care, the annuals, I think you're right, but the problem is you're paying, they're paying you a PM. Right? For a benefit, right, that is already covered by Medicare. That's the problem, if you treat.
Yeah, because you signed it with Medicare, which means that
you can't
I will
double-dip.
accept payment, I will bill Medicare and accept payment
in full
for any ill visit.
So by getting a PM, you violated that.
So, still we cannot see the Medicare wellness.
Did I mess you up even more?
I'm so confused, yeah. So.
What's routine? Annual.
Right.
Annual checkups.
Right. And that's a.
What is not routine?
That's a service that Medicare does not pay for.
Correct.
So that's
What is not
a
routine? I come to see you and I broke my toe.
Yeah.
Is that routine?
So what if I just, as a DPC, decide to just accept Medicare patients and just bill Medicare? Would I still be considered DPC?
Well, okay, I'm gonna answer that.
That's a good question.
That's hybrid in Louisiana law, all right, Act 867 of 2014 Louisiana legislation. DPC is defined as, among other things, that we do not bill third parties.
You can't do it.
So
I would have to
when
classify as a hybrid and not.
Right.
But you can do that. You can be a hybrid clinic then.
Well, there is no law describing a hybrid DPC practice.
Okay.
In Louisiana law, you're either DPC or you're not.
Okay.
I went renegade. Okay, I collected on Medicare patients, and I did not bill Medicare when I saw the patients.
For sick visits.
I never got handcuffed. And matter of fact, there is no case law, because I had to research, the Office of Inspector General is the Gestapo that'll come lock you up. There's been no case law that OAG has actually come busted somebody because they did not bill
Nobody's doing that, but here's the thing though, do you want to be the first?
Yeah.
Right? We're all sitting there saying never happened, and we're like, oh yeah, woohoo! You gotta do it. And all of a sudden,
Right, do that. He's not gonna bail you out.
So if I opt out under my entity, there's no
you
such
opt out as
thing,
a
right?
person, as
Right,
a
okay.
physician.
Yeah,
Okay, so that means I can't no longer
there's no
moonlight
enemy
where they
Medicare.
have Medicare patients.
It's the provider.
Do you have any idea, Carl, what portion of your practice has Medicare? You know, if that's like, or, you know?
I don't know, 15% maybe? And some of those are Medicare Advantage. So.
I mean, look, you can set yourself up for success when you get your your patient base and your panel right. You could, and the greatest thing, like what Carl said, with DPC, the control you have is incredible. So you can have 100 panel patients, 200, 300. You set your limit.
Sure.
Where and that's different from concierge, because concierge usually, like if you do an MDVIP, they will cap you. They will say this is what you're going to do. So you got someone else on top of you. But a DPC, you're it. The buck stops with you.
And there's nothing discriminatory then in if you have a DPC that says I don't take Medicare patients. That's not discriminatory. That's because you couldn't bill them correctly.
You can't bill right.
So it's okay to do to say I have my DPC doesn't take Medicare, and then a year down the line she change. If you're like, okay, I don't need this moonlighting job, I can drop that. Now I can take you guys.
You have freedom.
Right.
The only thing would be is that if you're taking care, you're Medicare, right? If you're taking care of a 64-year-old patient, and then they have a birthday next month, and now they flip to Medicare. Now you're seeing a Medicare patient. You got to kick them out.
Okay.
And that's kind of awkward.
Or what if you just offer quarterly routine wellness exams to your Medicare patients?
How many times do you need a wellness exam?
Oh, they're old and polypharmacy and all that. It's you know, they're high risk patients.
But you
I
can't.
like the way you think.
You can't treat like their high blood pressure then.
You can't.
Correct.
That's correct. But a wellness visit would not, a wellness exam, not a there's such thing as called a Medicare wellness visit, which is not a visit, it's just like a big questionnaire. But the annual wellness exam, right, you're not billing for any ailment on that visit.
Okay, but say you find their ailment, can you treat it?
Now they do that separate.
No.
I could say, hey, I think you might have a legal.
I think it's easier if you have the private pay on, PM than having Medicare. I even like Medicaid because you can do that a little easier than Medicare.
Yes.
So I'll even like that, but again, it's going to come down to what you believe you want to do, right? We could, like I said, we can talk about this all day long, but only you know what works best for you.
I guess we just need to know what the law is.
That's the law.
We're gonna end up being the first one,
For the
right?
Medicare, she's focused on Medicare. You're focused on Medicare.
Because everything
Oh,
else
Lord.
is pretty.
Well,
It's just the Medicare that's sticky, right?
Medicare, right? Right. The federal government should not be running a health insurance. Oh, we got that.
If you want, I have the form for that, Carl. I did this stuff. I had that. There's something I haven't looked. I don't know the answer.
Oh, fee for non-covered services?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I had a fee for non-covered services. You're a Medicare patient, all right, but I'm charging you this fee. And this fee, this $75 a month fee, it's not for all of your care. You're paying me this monthly fee, or annual, whatever, as a fee for non-covered services. And technically, an annual wellness exam is a non-covered service under Medicare. Right. So is something else, periodic health publications. So I did a newsletter every month. I try to best I could to make clear.
Well, we can't solve the world's problems in a meeting at Game On. So, but we could sure talk about it. This has been a good conversation. So, again, it's going to be you as individual doctors makes that call. Like, you have to decide what you want, right? What's best for you. And right now, some things might be better than others. But if the goal is to advocate for patients, I can tell you right now, this is the way to go.
So y'all would be able to help with so under DPC practice, you have a membership agreement. That's where you collect the fee and you provide the service. So
you're in the club.
You would be able to have a membership agreement that's completely, and it has to be compliant with Louisiana law too. Don't just go get a template offline,
Do not ChatGPT it.
Yeah, right.
Or Perplexity, or Grok, or whatever you use.
Well, Atlas said at the DPC summit, amongst other people there, we're like, we can put these contracts together for you for a little fee.
Yeah.
Like, would you be like, well, yes, because they are in this industry, and they come with the Atlas software,
do.
or if it's like, no, go with Conrad. I mean, we're probably like,
I'm gonna say
towards
something.
Conrad, but I'm just saying, like, we were approached by a lot.
You're going to get hit with so many salesmen, and they're all going to promise you the moon, the sun, the stars, and they're going to say, well, we're doing this here, we're doing this there.
Nice dinner.
Right. I mean, they're going to send you a steak dinner, shake your hand, and put sparklers up. And look, I just say this. I like the idea of having my client call me anytime they want. If they have a question, they can call they'll carry this. They'll call my phone. Hey, Carl can call me anytime he wants. Any one of my clients can call me anytime they want. Try doing that with Atlas.
Right.
Let me know how that works out for you.
Atlas does have a free attorney and a free accountant.
That's what we were like, well, if you're saving money,
Yeah, but let me see how responsive that person is. I want to see. Let me tell you, Carl. I guarantee you, no attorney is going to turn around 24 hours. I call my people back in 24 hours or less.
Well, here's the thing. This is the first thing I said. When you go into your own solo practice, you own your own practice. You're not Dr. Bertucci of LCMC. You're Dr. Bertucci
of you.
Of you. All right. So all kind of other doors are going to open up. All kind of other ventures, other things that you can get yourself into. If you have a healthcare attorney up front, and so maybe at first it was just constructing this membership agreement, but then when other stuff starts to come up, then you already have somebody you have a relationship with. We talked about having a relationship with a patient. And so that you can now handle all kind of stuff as a patient, and you kind of matriculate through time.
Wait, I gotta take this call. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. So anyway, the thing is also Louisiana law is different than any other state in the nation, and so you want to have a Louisiana healthcare attorney. They really do.
I'm pretty sure
I know the Atlas gang.
But they just market it like we are the whole package.
But it doesn't cost that much. It does not cost that much to get a healthcare attorney to construct your membership agreement. It just doesn't. And then it's a done deal. It's not like you pay them an installment. You pay whatever. It may be, I don't know, maybe it's $1,000 or maybe $500. I don't know what to quote a price for them. But Yeah, I did that on my own, and I brought it to an attorney, and not Conrad, and that attorney just kind of added his tweaks and made it compliant with Louisiana law. But anyway, but there's just other things you're going to get into that you actually want to. It's nice to have an attorney involved in that anyway. All right.
Can I ask you on the accounting side? So it seems like the accounting aspect of the DPC practice is pretty simple.
It is.
Is it something that you think, I mean, I could see having like, you know, a tax person to help with, you know, different things, especially if you're doing the pharmacy side of it and all that kind of deal or whatever, but do you think like a practice needs to have an accountant, or you think it's something you do on your own?
No, I think you can do it on your own. I use QuickBooks Online.
Nope.
I actually got an accounting firm when I went to change to an S Corp, when I went to do the S Corp filing. But you don't need an accountant for actually doing that. But no, you can do, you know, you can do your own accounting just all on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And DPC, like I said, is pretty clean.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really, it's easy.
Sure.
You just make sure you pay your bills, and if you, what Tom said, if you're an LLC, that doesn't mean anything from a tax standpoint. When you report your income in your personal taxing, it's just your business income is just part of that. You write the Schedule C is a part of the tax form that you actually complete, but it's just basically if your business made $100,000 in profit, that's just, you're paying personal taxes on that. All right. The S Corp thing is where that all changes. You know, where you can do some more shenanigans, if you will, favorable shenanigans. But like when you're just getting started, you wouldn't start as an S Corp. You just start as an LLC. And you may grow, and then you say, okay, now from a tax standpoint, I'm gonna petition the IRS to have me taxed as an S Corp. You're still technically an LLC. So, and that's not, the transition to S Corp is not complicated.
So, I have another question. So if they decide that they want to sign a contract with, like, one of the big ones, should they get the attorney to look it over? I mean, I think you can scratch out and change some things and see if it will fly. So if you're going to decide to sign with the, you know, the two out here, there's probably things you can change in the contract that they'll let it go if they want you.
There are.
You know, like distances and because like I said, when he signed his, he did it. And my daughter's a veterinarian, and they sold their practice to a big vet company. And when they signed their contract, they gave them a standard contract, and they scratched out a bunch of stuff like how far they can work and all this other stuff. So, and the company signs it. So, even if they give you a standard contract and says this is your standard contract, there's a good chance that you could tweak it where it favors you better.
It's possible, or there may be so many FP graduates are saying, oh, please, big box, sign me up. You know, they may go ahead and pay. But yeah, I would say, yeah.
Give it a shot. Tweak it, if you're gonna have to do that, tweak it to the best of your ability that it favors you over that.
Well, ask your residency program. So like, I did residency in Montana, but I was coming back here to work. And our program had lawyers who would review contracts that we were considering, and they would go through and they'd say, this is concerning, see if they'll change this word. See, I got mine, there was a guy who was really excited because he was a Tulane grad, and he was like, oh man, I want to see a contract for New Orleans, this is really neat. So he went all through it, made a whole bunch of changes. They took a number of them. They changed a few things. They would not change. My contract said that if they needed to, they could move me to a different location, and they said they had to have that because of hurricanes, that my clinic might not be open, and they had to be able to move me. So they wouldn't change certain things, but they changed numerous things in my contract. Which, I mean, partially because I was not like trying to get a job on like, you know, St. Charles or Metairie Road.
If somebody decides to contract some kind of with a big box with an LCMC or Ochsner, and look, I'm not employed by his firm. You should get a healthcare attorney to go over your contract. I used to give this talk and say you could read the language yourself, you know, because we're smart people and stuff like that. And several years ago, I just said no, and that, you know, it's just because if there's a flaw, if the big box gets you, with the contract because they find some loophole. And now you're bringing the attorney in on the back end of trying to repair that damage. So if, I'm just saying, if you do decide you want to sign with a big box, which I don't belittle anybody who does that. I mean, yes, I like independent, but get an attorney to review the contract before you do anything with it.
Well, you also said that you take care of a lot of that, like, compliance with, like, OSHA, all those, when I was at the DVC clinic and sat through that talk, it was, like, intimidating. Like, it seemed like so many regulatory things that I didn't even know about.
So I've been doing this long enough. I mean, I've got a practice startup checklist. I mean, I have that. I mean, we got it. It's not, for me, it's just like rolling with it, right? I mean, what I want you to focus on is helping patients and doing that. Let me handle the legal work, the leases, or whatever we need to do, you know, and you know, that sort of thing. But I apologize. I had my kids going to bed, so I had to tell them. So anyway, I think this is a very good conversation to have. I think I'm trying to give you the big picture of both options. Okay, and you have to make a decision. We can help you navigate the big box contracts. Sadly, I mean, I'm just telling you, sadly, the navigation on that in terms of the negotiations for family practice and primary care is slim. They look at us and say, oh, here's what you got, take it or leave it, right? For real. No, take it or leave it. We can move a few things, you know, we can work on a few things and help. I mean, I'm not saying it's all that bad, but there's some wiggle room on some areas. It depends on who we're working with and what they're willing to do, so.
Do you have like a bundle of services that you offer for like DPC startup and all of that?
Yep. So usually on primary care, originally for residents, like we start any resident fellow contract at flat rate $1,500, right? Then we're going to do a startup, like a full startup with DPC, the whole bit. I've floated the idea of $4,000, $5,000. I haven't fully finalized that because I mean my rate's $400 an hour, and so for me to do all the work, with, you know, even though I got some of the stuff done, that's like a full day. I mean to put it all together, get all the forms, put it all right, put it to your company, start the company, even though every lease agreement, so every vendor, whether it's the lease of the building, EHR, whatever that is, your insurance, I mean, that all those take time, you know, so that's, I think honestly, I have not done a practice bundle like that, but I would say probably somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000.
When you say insurance, do you mean malpractice?
Well, and liability.
Liability, yeah, not just malpractice, you have to get CGL. So if someone trips on your property, you have to have, you know, commercial general liability insurance to cover that.
You get that quote and policy for us, or?
Usually I go with a broker, and the broker will do that for us.
Okay.
But we do have brokers, yeah.
So you guys.
I don't sell insurance. I can't do that.
But you get us the policy.
I will get you into a broker that can quote us policies, and we can get that.
Okay.
But in terms of reading the policy, telling you what's in it, yes.
Okay.
100%. 100%. Yes, ma'am.
So insurance forms. I was just trying to think everything that
Yeah, you're talking
it's
about
like on the template.
the insurance contracts. Like if you're going to go an insurance based instead of a DPC.
No. I'm talking about insurance, like your property for like people falling or
that's the CGL and professional
coverage from like
liability.
hurricane damage, stuff like that.
CGL and professional liability is what you really need. That's all you need.
That one that comes from.
Good.
Yeah.
Keep in touch.
I get that one from Lamico.
Yeah, that's great, easy, one-stop shop.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I'm gonna do.
Wait, you were gonna ask something because you've been having your hand up. What can I help you with? You were very patient.
If you have like if you do telemedicine in other states,
Yeah.
But you have a DPC in a separate, like in another state, do you still have to honor the insurances that you accept in those telemedicine?
I don't understand your question. So if you are DPC in Louisiana and you're doing telemedicine in other states,
Yeah, so let's say you accept Medicare in Miami.
You have to accept Medicare Miami on telemedicine?
Yeah. So I'm doing, like, my plan is to do a fellowship. And
All right.
so, like, in stigma, and that's
Okay.
kind of something you can do, you know, with telemedicine. And so if I were to.
So
right
each
now-
state's rule for telemedicine is different. It's not one-stop shop. So for example, with Louisiana here, we have specific rules on the initial visit, subsequent visit, who can do it, and they will treat telemedicine as if what you have. A telemedicine visit, and I'm sure it's like this for other state boards, the state boards will treat a telemedicine visit as the same as a visit in your office. So in other words, you better be able to back up on your record that you were able to do X, Y, and Z on your review systems on a telemed visit on another state, just like you would if you were in the office. So
Is that,
that's what our board requires.
you have to do a ROS on, like, non-primary care stuff as well?
On every patient, you telemedicine. I mean, if you're gonna do a telemedicine, if you get an initial visit on a new patient, on a telemedicine patient, even when they come in to complain, I mean, you're gonna do some of the RLS. Are you not? You tell, so if a patient give me a hurt my big toe, you're not gonna like do some sort of rudimentary review of RLS on an initial patient? I mean, you're the doctor, you tell me. If you tell me I'm wrong, great, I'll eat crow. But every initial visit I've seen has a total review of systems regardless. And so in a telemed visit, you better be careful to make sure that you document that whatever state you're in. Each state's different. But if you're telling me, can you be DPC in Louisiana and still do telemedicine? You can have telemedicine licenses in other states as long as you adhere to the requirements that the state has for the telemedicine visit. They're all different, not the same.
Okay, and the insurance that you accept in those states for those patients?
If you are enrolled if you are enrolled in an insurance company in other states, can you take DPC in this state? Is that what you're saying? I never had that question before. I never had that question. Have you?
If you're enrolled.
If you're enrolled in a DPC here, you don't bill insurance, you get a PMPM, can you be a telemedicine provider in another state?
You gotta have a state license
insurance.
for wherever the patient lives, you have to have a state license for that.
Right.
Right, she said she has a state license there. So can she do?
Insurance, that there, in the remote location. So in other words, if she's DPC here in Louisiana, and you get a telemedicine license in Mississippi, can you enroll in Blue Cross Mississippi and see a patient in Mississippi?
I think so,
I think technically, it sounds like you could, but I've never been asked that question. I don't know the answer. Technically, it sounds like it, but I don't know. If you'd like me to look it up, I'm happy to.
Just to make sure, since I have patients that live in Mississippi, I'm licensed to practice in Mississippi also. So
You have to be
I have
licensed.
no problem with telemedicine.
Right.
They can live in Picayune, they can drive to see me and stuff like that.
But Mississippi has a telemedicine purpose license that you have to pay for, and most states do.
Right.
So you have to figure out, honestly, it sounds because you have state separation, technically, that if you don't give a DPC model here, could you do, I think you could, but I've never researched that. You're the first person that's ever asked that. It's funny, let me tell you this, with doctors, let me give you a piece of lawyer advice. When y'all call us up and you say, all right, I only want you to do this, I only want to look at this, how much is it going to cost? And then I say, okay, it's going to cost X. And then also we go over it and you say, but what about this? Well, now I got to do the whole analysis all over again. So it's not as easy as just saying, on the fly, I can answer that.
That's what I was gonna ask you, like.
It's not easy. It's hard. It's because you have that state's regs, and then I have to figure out what that state's regs look like, and then is there some sort of a conflict with Louisiana? So it's not as easy as a one-off.
With you starting us off and everything, like, do we pay to retain you? Cause like,
Yeah,
say
so-
6 months later, like, hey, we got a difficult patient, I want to dismiss them. How do I legally do this? Make sure, So is that like just?
So when I set you up, say you call me and we have a good rapport, and you're like me, and we think
Right.
you want me to be your attorney and I represent you. So what I would do is, and I did this with Carl. Carl's my client, and I'll set up a file that says general advices, and then if he's something specific he wants me to do, I'll have to put a matter for that. Because everything I do, everything gets billed, it's very detailed, all line item, and it's done by matter. I don't just have one file and just bill everything on one file. Everything I have is an engagement for a scope of what it's asking me to do. So but I always put a general advices for like stuff like that. you call me up, I got a terrible patient, he's a total jerk, I want to get rid of him. How do I do that? Well, here's a form letter, here's what we can do. I'll bill you for 20 minutes, and then it'll go under general advices. So that's one way to do it. So I don't ask for retainers. All new clients have a retainer by my firm's rule. That's how our firm does it. But once I work that down, and you and I have a rapport, we've already done this. I mean, I'm just going to bill you.
But we could potentially pay you $100 or $200 a month just to keep like.
That's a hybrid. I've done that before, so that's a great question. I've done that for a rag group where basically they pay me a set fee per month, and whatever contract came through and whatever thing came through they wanted me to do, that was so the risk was on me now. So they shifted the risk from a fee for service to a capitation on me. And they just fed me stuff. And I said, look, I'll do it for a year. I'll do it for 6 months. I said, let's see what it's like in 6 months. If I'm overworked and I'm killing, we're gonna have to readjust the rate. But so the risk was on me at that point. But yeah, I can work with that. I can work with that.
That way, just when things come up, it's like, hey,
Then you don't have to worry. It's a fixed
from
expense.
the account that we are just building up on because.
If we can come to a fair number that you're comfortable with and I'm comfortable with, and look, we'll just assess it like we did in 6 months or a year. And I can say, look, hey, it's not working out for me. We need to adjust. Or you can say, hey, this isn't working out for me. So there's a downward risk, there's a risk on both sides. Yeah.
Thanks. I know there's a million other questions, I'm gonna let you go if you wanna go.
Yeah,
I'll be here all night when it comes to.
No, I don't know that legal advice.
Okay.
Look, there's one time you can ask, and I'm not going to send you.
All right, thanks.
Look, I really appreciate it. It's nice to meet all of y'all.
Now you didn't give us cards, did you?
I didn't come with cards and cups and handouts.
I'll circulate that.
But Carl knows me. I'm his attorney. But you can find Shahadi Sherman Williams. I mean, I have a podcast. Health Law Talk, you can look us up, Health Law Talk.
Yeah.
Apple, Spotify, Google, we've got about 60, 70 episodes.
Yeah.
And, but feel free, Conrad Meyer, Shahadi Sherman, you can't miss me.
And is that M-Y-E-R?
M-E-Y-E-R. Okay, feel free to reach out. Okay, good to see y'all.
Thanks for coming out.
Always a pleasure. Y'all have a nice night. Sorry.
All right.
This was good.
Yeah.
All right, y'all take care.
All right.
So we had a couple more. There's two other drawings that we just did for while it was going on, and this is there's a fellow DPC physician that some of y'all probably already know, Byron Jasper. He wrote a book called The Bija Blueprint, and it's a discussion, it's a read on the philosophy about going into direct primary care. And it's kind of like a big picture type thing. It's not a nuts and bolts of how to start a direct primary care practice. So I went ahead and drew on this, and the first person I drew was Addie. Do you already have Byron Jasper's book by chance?
Addie? Me,
No?
Addie?
Yeah.
No, I don't have it.
Okay, well you want it. And Dr. Coyote? You? Okay, all right. So it's a good read. It's a short read too, but it's a lot of valuable lessons. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to start bringing this to a close. So in the blue binder, if you want to just take a look at that really quick, and go towards the end where all the colored stuff is, all the neat colors. And this is, Brian. I sent this to you by email, so this is the same thing. This is just a step-by-step guide of the things that you would want to go through. Now, the first thing I tell people is if you're contemplating starting your own practice, first thing is just dream, pick out a name of what you like to call your practice, and design a logo. So in other words, you're not getting into anything about picking out numbers, tax ID numbers, anything like that. You're just visualizing what your own practice might be, and that it could be an actual reality. But the guide is set up in like 6 months out, 4 months out, stuff that you should probably do, and to give a little bit of a timeline. So if you go through these things, there's not a lot of stuff that takes a lot of deep explanation. Matter of fact, one of them in 6 months out, I put 6 months out, you get an attorney consultation. And also ask yourself, do you need, what are your finances, and do you need an accountant, stuff like that. As Stephen points out, you really, and I don't feel that you actually necessarily need to have an accountant at the very front end. If you feel that you're pretty good at this stuff, then you can do this on your own. But just go through this list and just look through these things step by step. If you look at the whole 6 pages, and like I said, it's big type, if you look at the 6 pages, you go, well, I can't do that. But for example, you know, you go to 4 months out, set up utilities, electrical and internet service provider. You know, that's stuff. You contact Verizon, you contact Entergy, etc. That's all there is to it. So don't make this too complicated. Just kind of walk through it and you'll find out what to do. If you need any further assistance, you call me or email me. You have a good night. Thanks for coming out.
Nice meeting you.
And then we'll kind of help walk you through this. Lastly, I have started something called the Louisiana Direct Primary Care Coalition. And we are now official. We now have a board, directors, and bylaws. The purpose of our organization, it's a 501c3, it's ladpcc.com, and it's not in here. The purpose of the organization is to assist with physicians who wish to start a direct primary care practice, or people who are already in a direct primary practice who wish to do something different. But it's primarily for employed doctors who are looking for a lifeline about an alternative model, and also residents who all they see is hospitals, all they see is academic faculty who know nothing about private practice. This is kind of a go-to organization where a lot of us are available to help people. So that's ladpcc.com. And eventually on the website, there'll be a resource guide which goes over all this stuff, including documents and videos that explains this. I'm doing this parallel with the Louisiana Academy of Family Physicians, but they've been a little bit slow. And so we're going to kind of do this on the LADPCC website on our own. Anyway, so just lastly, I'm going to just ask, does anybody have any questions about direct primary care? About what is it? Is everybody clear what it is? Pretty clear. So it's just a monthly fee, and you know, you're familiar with CPT codes, and you know, what's the diagnosis code for this? And is this a 99213? How much time do I spend with the patient? So we do none of that. We just don't do any billing. We don't send claims forms to anybody. As Conrad pointed out, the average DPC practice may have, let's say, 500 patients, maybe 600. I know some that have more. But how much income you make is literally how much you decide to charge. So if you're charging $1,000 a year and you have 500 patients, you know, and $1,000 a year is $80 a month, let's say, and you have 500 patients, then your revenue is $500,000. So if you keep your overhead at less than $150,000, then you take home $350,000. Now, what Fontes said about setting up an S-Corp, you're technically not doing take-home. I don't mean to imply that, because if you're doing that well as an LLC, and now you convert to an S-Corp, you know, you're paying yourself and any partner you may have, if you have one, a salary, at least a minimum salary. So it's not strictly take-home. In a strict LLC solo practice thing, if you had $350,000, 500 minus 150, then that whole 350 counts as your personal income. Right. So an S-Corp is not that. But just know the counting is very easy on that, and the counting is predictable. If you have 500 patients, you may lose some, you may gain some, but you're going to probably hang around that. Now, if half of your patients belong to some business, 250 of them, and that business goes belly up, now a lot of those patients are not seeing you anymore. So you have the risk if you have the majority of your practice is a big business. But the accounting is very easy from that standpoint. But direct primary care is defined in Louisiana law, like I said, in 2014. So that made us not an insurance, it made us primary care. It said that we collect a periodic payment, typically monthly, and that we do not bill third parties. That's all it takes to be classified in Louisiana's direct primary care insurance. The big beautiful bill that was signed on July 4th, it now codified the direct primary care in it, which corrected a lot of IRS ambiguities and now made it favorable for DPC and for the use of HSAs, for health savings account. So now we got really propped up by the legislation that was signed in July. Anyway, but I'm right now, I'm gonna just be hanging around if there's any questions or anything. If there's not any questions, we'll call it a day. We can see if there's any take-home stuff for people who take food home also. So anyway, so any questions about starting private practice or direct primary care?
I'm curious, do you know who would be, or what entity, I don't know, Jedco, I guess, for your maybe, would be a good resource to talk to someone about like market analysis to try and understand where, you know, a wise price point might be or something like that for the community you're looking at, you know? Like, I mean, I can look at it and kind of go, well, I think this is reasonable, but it's like, okay, is there someone wiser than me who could, you know?
I tell you, that took so much of my bandwidth when I was changing. So for those who know, I was insurance-based practice, 2016. I tore up my insurance contract, so to speak, and went direct primary care. I fretted a long time as to what you charge. At that time, the average charge through the DPC group, if you will, loose group, was like $77 a month. I went ahead because I'm in South Louisiana and charged $65 a month. And I've had one increase since then, which is about 2 years ago, $75 a month. I know, this is personal opinion now, I know there's some doctors like in Baton Rouge who charge $150 a month, which to me kind of defeats the purpose because you want to make direct primary care kind of reachable for a lot of people. And you keep increasing the price because I can, then you think, well, maybe there's some people that can't afford me. But so there's that balance. I doubt Jedco or anybody is going to be able to tell you that. I don't know. There's no.
At the summit, it was all across the board. Like people had so many opinions, and it was confusing.
Yes.
People would say $95 a month, or you're cheating yourself. Like gym memberships are more than that, and then you're like, oh, that's a good point. And then other people are, but you don't make it affordable. And how often are they actually seeing you? And then you kind of go, oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
We were very like confused.
Tallahassee who charges $200 a month. I was just like, good.
I was like, at that
It's
point, it's a concierge practice, you know. And they're like, well, but you're screwing yourself. It's hard to get your patient, or it's hard to go up. It's hard to charge more. But
If you see, so I have roughly 400 patients, all right, a little less than that, and I would say I would see 3 patients a day. So if I had 500 patients, then maybe I see 4 patients a day, 5 patients a day. Yeah, the point philosophically is not to milk and get what you can. So, but then it's just an internal decision about how cheap. But you don't want to devalue yourself. That's for sure. You don't want to do 50 or something like that. I mean, you can still make a go out of it because that's still a decent income, I suppose. But you got rent to pay and practice to pay and all that. So, I don't know. I don't even have advice for you.
Sure.
I probably would say I would charge. So I'm at 75 now. I'd probably say charge a little bit more than that. I don't know.
But you know your
local economy better than I would.
Sure. What would you say the wisdom or not wisdom of going to smaller entities? Because one of the things I've looked at in St. Bernard, there's hundreds of these little you know, charter boat company who employ 6 people and offering them some sort of deal to say, hey, look, I could be the doc for y'all 6 guys at a discounted rate.
I would definitely do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, don't do it too deep a discount.
Sure.
But, yeah. I mean, because the benefit, why give them a discount? I mean, there's still 5 patients, whether they're, the issue is that now there's one payer. You're just getting one check from the business owner. You're not having to deal with 5 or 6 different individuals whose credit card may have been frauded or something like that. You have to rectify that. So that's why we give the discount.
Well, and that business is providing a service to their employees that it's cheaper for them to.
Yeah, well, they,
How
right.
do you market to that at all? Like, do you talk to those businesses? That's kind of how you sell
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
I would just say, I had some people in the food service industry, Budgeboro specifically, that, you know, the turnover of the employees at that level was just so fast that it was hard to keep track of. But yeah, small businesses can't afford, but the small businesses say, hey, I can't buy you some big old Blue Cross policy because we'll go bankrupt, but I can give you an enrollment with a physician who can actually see you when you're sick.
Yeah.
So,
Thinking about a specific patient who he is a fisherman, and he said last year he paid $27,000 to have Blue Cross for his family, because he's like self-employed and wanted to have insurance. And I was just like, God gracious, like if you should just have a DPC you go see, you can save so much money. But
well,
you
they still
need
need
catastrophic, sure.
So then you tell them to get a health share.
Yeah.
Sedera, Christian Health Ministry, Zion,
Yeah.
Liberty, that kind of stuff. They're way cheaper than standard policies. So.